Okay, we're live. It is 12:43 a.m. Hey buddy, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Hey Melissa, what's going on? Good to see you. Um let's see here. What the hell am I doing? All right, so we're gonna go over some the true crime cases of the week. I want to finish up with not finish up, but get back into the Asha degree case, and do some other shit. Uh My family's up from Florida this week, so I was doing that all day. Good to see my family, my parents, my mom. Uh, Always good to see my mom. Um, but hey, Heather, how are you? Good to see you, Heather. All right, so let me play an intro, and I'll be right back, and we'll get this show on the road here. Hold on a second. Let me. Good to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Um, I'll be right back. Up the elevator to fun down. It's freaking classic. That is so funny. Hello, everybody. It's me. It's the True Crime Weekly time, I guess. Good to see everybody. I want to go over a couple things. I want to go over the Asher degree thing we followed last week. Quick shout out though to Southern Gal. I was on her live last night. She did great live. She had some great stuff. Always good to see her. Won't you take us to Funky Town? I don't know if I can go there anymore. I thought it was blocked. All right, so I don't know what to do. Let's go here first. Good to see everybody again. Actually, we'll start with this. I don't know if anybody remembers this. A second here. This is all right, hold on a second. This is when was this? This was done 2 days ago. So everybody remembers the Titan thing that sunk last year. Remember they were going in a sub. I think it was off the Canadian coastline last year, and the Titan sub went down, and then it kind of imploded. But they're doing an investigation into it. So we'll hold on. We'll start there, and then we'll get into something else. So this happened last year. So they were supposed to go into this submersible sub to go down and check out the Titanic sinking, and they kind of imploded. So this is this guy talking about that. Let's check this out. Let me show this. Hold on. All right, so let's start this over again here.
Employee of OceanGate raised concerns about the vessel. Raising those concerns, he says, led to him being fired and getting sued by the company. David Lockridge hasn't spoken out publicly until now at the U.S. Coast Guard hearing into the Titan.
Hey PJ, how you doing? Good to see you. Always good to see lighting their way home in the house. Just kind of going over this recap here for this. I don't know if people remember this. This was I believe this was early last, 2023 summer, anyways. But they're starting to investigate a little bit of this stuff here.
Implosion.
Stockton had no experience building submersible. None of them did. Hands down, I would never go in that thing.
Less than 2 hours into its journey to the wreck of the Titanic, the Titan submersible lost contact.
On June 18th, it was reported missing in the Atlantic with 5 people on board.
Bolted inside a submersible the size of a van with less than 2 days of oxygen left.
The debris is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel.
All 5 people on board died in the implosion. And in the time since, a lot of questions have been raised about OceanGate's practices with the Titan.
This is one of those things, like I said, hey, Mustang, how are you? Good to see you. Mustang's in the house. Like, I wouldn't have done this. I don't know if anybody is braver than that, but I wouldn't have done this. I probably would have, tried it out on a small lake first. These poor people.
Many of which are being asked at the Coast Guard's hearing.
And they paid a lot of good money to go on this thing, too. I forget the actual number, but
this isn't a criminal trial. There are no legal arguments being made, no cross-examinations. Think of this as a fact-finding mission to try and understand what went wrong and how to prevent it from happening again.
Yes, you're taking a risk going down a submersible, but don't take risks that are unnecessary with faulty, and I mean faulty, deficient equipment.
David Lockridge was the director of marine operations, responsible for safety. He worked for OceanGate from 2015 to 2018. From a lack of oversight to questionable materials to construction itself, Lockridge laid bare his concerns about the safety of the Titan and why he says it was a disaster waiting to happen. Let's go through his testimony.
I wanted to go to Titanic, it was on my bucket list. I wanted to dive this, but to dive it safely.
When Lockridge first arrived, OceanGate had been collaborating with engineers at the Applied Physics Laboratory, APL, at the University of Washington. Lockridge says he was told they would be heavily involved in the design, construction, and helping class the Titan vessel.
Having the university involved, it gave this. It was confidence in what was going ahead. To have that collaboration, and it was a collaboration, I felt good about it.
The Titan was considered an experimental vessel, a new construction, unregulated and in development. And it's why having the expertise as well as the checks and balances of the university made sense.
With a university involved, you do ask questions, you try and find answers. It's public versus private. It's general knowledge versus applied.
Or just get one from Dean. Dean's got probably a spare charger for you. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, these poor people had no chance whatsoever. It just sucks. But they're trying to figure out what happened, I guess.
Application here for commercial benefit.
Now, OceanGate's partnership with the Applied Physics Lab was called into question when the submersible first went missing in 2023. The university was quick to distance themselves from the project, calling into question just what their role was.
Whether they were dropped or they dropped themselves, I think that ultimately the university, their own risk management would have come along, and their own scientists working and engineers on this would have said, this design seems to have a fatal flaw within it.
But according to his testimony, Lockridge said the concerns raised by APL engineers were dismissed, and OceanGate cut ties with the lab.
They did not want APL to do anything else with regards to the design concept and the build of Titan. They were going to do it all themselves.
Do you know why they made that decision?
Can I say arrogance? Thinking they could do this on their own without proper engineering support. I mean, proper engineering support.
He says the decision was made by CEO Stockton Rush to now do all engineering in-house.
I think that was mostly a time thing in his head. As I said, he can be very impatient.
And almost immediately, Lockridge says he started to raise concerns.
From the engineering team, I spoke to every single one of them, all these children that were coming in straight out of university. Some hadn't even been to university yet.
That lack of experience made Lockridge uneasy, and he started putting it on the record.
And maybe came across as the troublemaker within the organization because...
this was such a big story last year. Remember that? They thought that they were all going to be rescued and stuff. They had every freaking vessel out there looking for this, basically a Tylenol in a huge ocean. That's what it was. And, everybody hoped for the best, but, when you risk your life doing something like this, it's probably not going to go well. It's just an awful story. All those people just had to perish for no reason. Just terrible.
I was so outspoken on any issues, in terms of my confidence in the inexperienced engineering team.
Constructing a vessel to dive 3,800 meters isn't easy. Vessels that go to that depth are meticulously designed and engineered. It takes years. But the point, according to Lockridge, was to get to the Titanic as quickly and cheaply as possible.
Cost cutting, bad engineering decisions, the desire to get to the Titanic as quickly as they could to start making profit. A lot of steps along the way were missed.
I think it was General MacArthur said, "You're remembered for the rules you break." And, I've broken some rules to make this. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me. The carbon fiber and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
The hull is arguably the most important part of a submersible. It's the protective outer shell.
The pressure hull is the material that protects the humans and stands between them and the immense pressures, 380 times atmospheric pressures that they're going to be subjected to as they go down to the bottom of the ocean.
And according to Lockridge, this is where the Titan really deviated from tradition. Most submersible hulls are made of titanium or steel because they can withstand the intense pressure changes at great depths.
We have a long, long history of understanding how that kind of metal responds to stress and responds to these cycles of compression and expansion.
But titanium is heavy and hard to maneuver. So the Titan team decided to go with a carbon fiber hull made up of layers and layers held together with a resin. Now, carbon fiber is really strong, but when under extreme pressure, something called fatigue sets in and it starts to weaken.
You do have these layers and they do delaminate, and they delaminate in water, particularly in this case with external pressure on the Titan versus the internal. This is extreme 4,000 meters underwater pressure that's in excess of 400 times greater than surface. As this goes to the bottom, you get water that can penetrate and get inside of the fiber wrapping.
And while that may not happen the first or second or even the fifth time the vessel goes down, every time it descends to those depths, those fibers are weakening.
It's rigid, 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 and then it breaks. And so that lack of indication that it's at the breaking point is a problem because we have no warning when it's getting near the breaking point.
Which is exactly what Lockridge says he was afraid of.
When the hull came in, I could see all the imperfections on it. This is one of the samples that I was given by the engineering director, which came from these cut-off sections. And please look at the state of it. There was so many delaminations, so many voids. It was like porous paper. It was disgusting.
Experts say carbon fiber hasn't been pressure tested at these extreme depths on a submersible before. So it's impossible to know just how many times it might be able to descend before breaking down.
Nobody knew what the loading was going to be on this. No computer is going to be able to tell you with those components.
Between the dives after multiple.
Hello, Miss Persevere. How are you? Good to see you. Hey, Paula, what's going on? Good to see you. Let me see who else snuck in here. Good to see everybody. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. I want to hold on a second. I want to go here. So just in perspective. Okay, so this is basically the deepest diving mammal in the world is the curved beak whale that 10,000 feet, 3,000 meters, or 9,800 feet, not quite 10,000 feet. So I forget how far down the Titanic is, but that's the deepest diving whale or mammal. And then I'll get the ocean depths pretty soon, but I know that they were supposedly going deeper than this, I think, but this is record here. So um, they were expecting that vessel to go depths this much here. All right, so let's get back to the show here.
20 some dives successful. Well, you still, it just took that last dive for it to fall apart. And that's what carbon fiber does.
Now, the vessel did have an acoustic monitoring device, basically mics attached to the sub, listening for signs those fibers were buckling or breaking. And according to Lockridge's testimony, OceanGate felt a pilot would be able to hear that breaking and still have enough time to get back to the surface. He quoted what Rush said to him during his private dismissal meeting in 2018.
It doesn't just implode, it screams like a mother before it implodes. Now, for the CEO to say that in front of other people, right, regarding that carbon fiber, I'm putting that on the record.
And according to multiple experts, it's likely this breaking was the cause of the implosion. It's widely reported that the Titan had gone to the Titanic at least 10 times previously. And on each dive, that carbon fiber would have weakened.
The Titan imploded, and it imploded most likely due to delamination of a carbon fiber hull. So, yeah, I think that's the number one problem we are talking about here in this particular event.
I looked at everything and there wasn't anything, and I mean anything, on that build that gave me any confidence in them producing an efficient product. Nothing.
According to Lockridge, the Titan was riddled with workarounds and faults. Take the O-ring, for example.
Hey, True Crime Web's in the house. Hey, buddy. Honeybee's in the house. Hey, Honeybee. Sorry, I'm doing some background stuff here. Backstage stuff. Miracle Hearts is here too. Good to see everybody. Steve's in the house. I thought Steve was traveling. It's good to see everybody. Just going over this Titan thing. Remember the Titan last year that kind of went missing? Jump rappelling backwards out of a 5-story building multiple times to ensure the rope skirt wouldn't fall. Yes, that's not good. I wouldn't. I wouldn't suggest that. All right. It's a good thing, It's a good thing Mrs. Steve didn't do that. All right, so let's get back to this here. I got.
It's a
Actually,
type
hold
of
on a second. I want to go here for a second. Hold on 2 seconds. So this is technically the deepest part of the ocean. This is the Mariana Trench. This is 10.9 kilometers deep. So that's a lot. It's really, really deep. And then James Cameron reached 10.898 deep in 2012, and I think that's still a record. But this is the deepest part of the ocean. So the deepest mammal can go right around Mount Everest is 8. So just to get some sort of a vantage point here, Mount Everest is the tallest mountain I think in the world. That's just shy of 9,000 meters up. So this is pretty deep. So they were trying to go in that little mini submarine that they had. I don't even know if you want to call it a submarine. They were trying to go to. Hold on a second. I'll get to that in a second. But this is the deepest part of the ocean here, I believe, the Mariana Trench. So let's get back to this here. Hey, Barbara Hall, good to see you. Barbara's in the house. Hey, Barbara. Where's Barbara? There she is. Hi, Barbara. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. We'll get back to true crime in a second here. I just wanted to just got back to Florida on the road next week. Are you going to Texas? Cold cases? Steve is absolutely awesome. Steve is a great person. It's good to see a Honeybee in the house too. Honeybee's got a great channel. Don't forget, if you guys have channels, just don't forget to post them here in the chat. I'm gonna get the word out here. Let me, what am I doing? I'm gonna get back here to this here. Who doesn't love Mr. Steve? Yeah. Mr. Steve and Mrs. Steve, they're absolutely incredible people. All right, so let's get back to this here.
Mechanical gasket, and under pressure it creates an airtight seal between two separate pieces. The problem with the O-rings on the Titan when Lockridge saw it is that the grooves the rings go in weren't standard. And in this image from Lockridge's report, you can see there's a gap that Lockridge says shouldn't be there.
I have dealt with God knows how many O-rings, O-ring grooves throughout my career. That is wrong.
And the list of problems just kept piling up throughout Lockridge's testimony. He brought up the issue of the viewport, the window at the front of the vessel. It was made of acrylic, 9 inches thick. Under extreme pressure, though, that acrylic could start to shrink and shift.
You're going back to Evansdale? I should do a redo of the Evansdale case. I've been meaning to do that for a long time. That Evansdale case, Evansdale and Timmy D's for sure. Eventually, I'll get back to doing some of these deep dives. Evansdale is crazy,
making the Titan vulnerable.
The viewport manufacturer states that the viewport is only good for about 1,000 meters.
Nowhere close to the Titanic, which sits at nearly 4,000 meters.
We're talking 400 plus times the pressure at the Titanic. So why wouldn't you test it at the depth it's applicable to? Then how can you put paying people on board and go to 4,000 meters? It just doesn't make any sense.
These kinds of practices, according to Lockridge, extended to almost every part of the build.
They reused these domes, they reused these ceiling faces. They reused the acrylic. They reused the interior. Everything was reused.
It just sucks. Cutting corners, took the lives of all of those people, and they all paid some really, really good money to get on board on that thing. But anyways, all right. So we'll get to the true crime stuff now. Ruckus isn't going. All right, so let's we're gonna go to this case here. This is part of the missing of the week here. Hold on a second. This is Samantha Tapp, I think. All right, so this is part of the News Nation, the missing files here. They do one of these every month, I think. But this is the story about Samantha Tapp. Sightings reported after the teen vanished in 2004. Missing Texas teen. This is in Texas. Samantha Tapp vanished in 2004. Was classified as a runaway. Sightings were reported over the years, but Tapp's sister says the missing woman still hasn't been found. So we'll get a good learning of this here. So hasn't been seen since she's been seen, but she vanished in 2004. And here we go.
Small town south of Fort Worth. Just 16 years old, she left a trail of secrets and sightings.
The beauty of small town Burleson, Texas. The ideal place to grow up, build a foundation, but not for all.
There obviously was abuse. She definitely believed in corporal punishment.
Kendall Watt says life for herself and her sisters in their adoptive mother's home here in the suburbs of Fort Worth was rough.
It did tend to spiral out of control, where she used to just use the paddle. She then would just lash out and smack us with whatever she had. Phone cord, hanger, shoe.
Unmoored, the sisters were split up to live amongst relatives. It took an especially hard toll on 16-year-old Samantha Tapp.
Hanging out with boys all the time. I know that she stole the car.
Sam was eventually brought here to live with Kendall and their grandparents. The teenager began working hard to keep good grades at Burleson High School.
She was on medication for bipolar disorder, but when she came to live with us, she wasn't on it anymore. She seemed like she was thriving for a while.
With things improving, Kendall moved across town, in with her boyfriend and his family. It's where she was surprised by a knock on the door.
She wanted to stay there. She said that she had gotten in an argument with my grandfather and she just didn't want to stay there anymore. And I told her that she was going to have to go back, at least for now, until I could figure out a way for her to legally stay with me.
What Kendall couldn't possibly know, she'd never see her little sister again.
I figured she was just going to cool her head and she would come back, but she didn't. And I wish that I could have ran after her right away and just told her to stay, because she shouldn't feel like she has to run away from me.
This case right here is just such a strange case. I might do a more of a deep dive on the Samantha Tapp case, but for now we're just gonna listen to this thing here.
It's the classic mystery. Where did she go?
Private investigator Jason Watts says Sam hardly vanished without a trace. A few days after she went missing in October of 2004, some of her clothing was taken from her grandparents' home. Cigarette butts left behind.
When I first began looking into the case, there was nothing. I mean, all you had was a flyer on the internet. That's it. No podcast, no news article.
It's always good to have Mr. Steve in the house. The True Crime Web is great. Great person, fantastic people down there. One of these days I'll get to meet up with him down there, drink some coffee or stuff like that. Other than that, he's great. Feel free to sub to his channel, anybody's channel. Honeybee's got a great channel too. Southern Gale is out of this world. She's just great. Like I said, if anybody's got a channel, feel free to post them in here. I gave you a wrench too, Steve. All right, let's go back to this here.
Calls online, nothing.
Classified as a runaway, weeks passed and then months, with no word from the 16-year-old.
Where did she go? What has become of her? Why has she not made contact with any family in almost 20 years?
Watts, who was brought onto the case years later, says Burleson police did not get crucial sightings throughout the years in real time. We're told Tarrant County deputies in the area covering Fort Worth ran Samantha Tapp's name through the NCIC, as did the Copperas Cove Police Department in Texas. Another intriguing hit coming in June of 2014 at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, where Customs ran Samantha's name and birth date. It was nearly a decade after her disappearance.
They are definitely interesting. We have ran these possible sightings down as far as we reasonably could. But unfortunately, just like with Burleson PD, by the time we got to them, any record as to why these hits occurred has been lost.
In 2007, an uncle reported that Sam called, asking if she could come live with him in San Antonio.
Then at some point she called back and said, never mind, she wasn't coming there, that she had met some man, and that she was...
Hey, Jenny, good to see you. Jenny's in the house. Hey, Paula. I think I said hi to Paula. Just going over the missing case of the week. This is Samantha Tapp. She vanished in 2004. Hold on a second. I think they said Burleson, Texas. So let's True Crime Web Foundation. Yes. Feel free to post that in the chat too if anybody wants to, because it'd take me forever to find that. Great cause, great. Like I said, Steve is great. So this is. So this is Burleson, Texas, I think, right here. It's just due south of Fort Worth, I think. Fort Worth is up here somewhere, right here. Yep. So this is kind of where she went missing. Let's take a look. This is the town here. That's it, I think. More images here. So this is where she kind of went missing here. So I may do another deep dive on this at some point. So let's go back to this here. Just wanted to give people an idea of where the hell we were. No problem, Barbara. Barbara, you're awesome. You're in good hands. You're with Steve. Steve will take care of you. We get over here and get back to this. I like to feature at least one missing person a week.
Moving to Melbourne, Florida, which I don't know, is weird.
This is what Samantha might look like now as a woman in her mid-30s.
She is not wanted or being sought after for any reason. If that is the reason she is scared.
I've been trying to look for some statistics when it comes to, runaways these days here. I haven't been able to find a good site to go to get accurate numbers, but I would think that it's I'm this is just a guesstimate. I would think that it's probably down this generation as opposed to earlier generations, like back in my day, the 70s and 80s. People ran away all the time. I don't know if that's the same now, but I'll try to get some because people still do run away. I don't know if it's greater now than it was years ago, but I'll try to get some stats on that because people do voluntarily disappear.
To come forward, she does not need to worry about that anymore.
Sam, your 34th birthday is bittersweet.
Only a loving sister is left waiting.
Did you follow your dreams to become a vet? Are you still singing? And do you know that I've never stopped looking for you?
Our outreach efforts to the Burleson Police Department were not returned. There is another intriguing footnote to this case. In 2007, that relative reported that Samantha called and asked to stay with them. By 2015, when the story was being relayed to authorities again, it had changed. And in the new version, Samantha had actually showed up at her uncle's house with an infant in tow. The uncle's wife did not recognize the visitor and reportedly turned her away. Samantha Tapp could also be using the last name of Van Diver. Joining me now is Lou Berry, a private investigator working on this case. Sir, thank you so much for your time. When I heard that this case hadn't really been in the headlines since the beginning, 20 years ago, as you have looked into the details, the evidence, the family stories and accounts, why has that been? Has it gotten so little attention?
Well, I think initially it was she was considered to be a runaway, and there's many runaways every day across the country, and most of the time they are located a short time later or return home or whatever. So I think initially that's what happened.
With a bumper car.
There wasn't a lot of investigative effort put forth because the assumption was she was just another runaway. As time passed, that may have changed, I think. But it certainly has only been in the recent maybe dozen years or so that these types of cases really have garnered the attention that they're now getting. So I think she just kind of got lost in the weeds, so to speak, or her case did.
I will say you never know what goes on in people's homes. Not suggesting anything in this case, but I really suck with notifications. Sorry. I'll try to get better down the road at some point, but my mom was up from Florida this week, so I was over there hanging out with her earlier today. So I didn't have a chance to get out much of a notification. Hey, Big Fish, how are you? Maps and notifications. It's not my strong suit here.
And we're hoping that by sharing it now and the involvement of social media can be that one tip this family needs, or that Samantha sees, to know that she is missed and wanted by those.
Do women still do diaries? Is that still a thing, or you don't want to know what goes on in your home? Oh, maybe not. All right. Yeah.
those who cared so much about her. I understand you jumped on as a volunteer, essentially working as a private.
No, years ago, girls used to have diaries that nobody else could read. I don't know if they do that anymore, but you can learn a lot from these diaries sometimes when they go missing. You have a free account on YouTube and have no idea of how posting links on here. Recently, I started posting videos and only posting shorts right now. Still figuring it out. It's tough. Lots of people use Facebook for their diary. But isn't a diary supposed to be one of those inconspicuous things that only you know about? It's a learning curve. I know StreamYard just went up $20. So their pricing right now is just ridiculous for just but it is what it is. You burnt mine when somebody tried to read it. Yeah, I mean, I remember the diaries were something that if you just, it wasn't like you never read a girl's diary. You just didn't do it. But if there's somebody missing for years, you might want to look into it.
Private investigator by the Burleson Police Department. Tell me about how you came on board this case and what you have found since you started investigating.
Initially, I got involved via Jason Watts, who had asked me to help him out on a case concerning a different friend of his. In I think it was 2020, he contacted me and said, "Hey, I have a friend who sister's missing, and do you think you could look into it a little bit?" So I talked to Ken Dale and talked to the police department and became interested in the case and started working on it at that point, 2020, 2021.
So you've got this database, the National Crime Information Center, and several pings about possible sightings that could be connected to Sam. Have those breadcrumbs led anywhere, and where does that leave the investigation now?
I think it's in
Steve's journal goes something like this. Late night, arrested 20 people at Shawnee's. Great time. Bad coffee. Just kidding.
Urging in the sense that there is an indication that she perhaps is.
All right, so Samantha database hits. So these were the pings. Airport ping. Custom runs, taps, name, birthday. Uncle's home. Uncle reports phone call with tap. This was 2007, 2014, 2015. Uncle's home, tap reported with infant in tow. Why would she go to the uncle's house?
Alive and well somewhere out there. I'm not certain that the sightings are always 100% accurate. Could have been at one point a different Samantha.
Hey, Grandma Sherry, good to see you. Thanks for coming in, Grandma. Jenny's here too. Hi, Jenny. All right, Miracle Hearts is here too. I think I just said that.
Tapped there's a number of young ladies by that name across the country that obviously are not the ones that we're looking for. Or it could have been someone who just saw a poster of hers and decided to run to see if she was still missing. Unfortunately, there was no timely notification that she had potentially been located or run. I know in one case there was a mistake made in the spelling of her last name. She also goes by the name of Samantha Van Diver, or did. And when they ran that, it had not been updated into the database. That was the early one, I think, in Coppers Cove, Texas.
So the Van Diver, that got me too. Was that earlier in her life she had gone by Van Diver, or after she disappeared?
I mean, if somebody's using her phone, somebody's going to be paying a cell phone bill, right? I mean, if it's a phone, I do have Discord, I think. Good to see everybody.
That was a name she was going by.
No, she had gone by that name previously, Samantha Van Diver, and then went by the name Samantha Tapp. So which name she would use is arbitrary. We're assuming she would be using Samantha Tapp, but that isn't necessarily true. She may be using Samantha Van Diver, or she may have changed her name completely.
Okay. We were hearing from that other private investigator a moment ago, and he said the message to her if she's out there is you didn't do anything wrong. You haven't committed any crimes. Your family just wants you home. Why might she think that based on what you know about her background, her childhood, and the time that she disappeared, that she might be under the impression she was in some trouble?
Well, I think when she initially disappeared, that was her fear, certainly. And that's probably why she did not come back right away. She was afraid she was going to be in some serious trouble. Anything that she may have done as a juvenile is long past now and is no longer a factor. But she may have gotten.
I can't read this.
Uncomfortable in a different lifestyle and just not wanted to return to being Samantha Tapp. We don't know. We're hoping that she's alive and well somewhere, but obviously there's also the possibility that something serious happened to her and she's just not no longer with us.
I wonder if the uncle was the only one that saw her.
We don't know.
In your extensive experience, Lou, as a private investigator, what are the biggest challenges in a case like this, especially given the fact that it's 20 years?
That's a lot of what makes these cold cases or so-called cold cases difficult, is you have to go back and start from scratch. And when you go back 20 years, people's memories are different sometimes. Sometimes reports aren't available. You can't locate potential witnesses. And I think in Samantha's case, since there was a pretty lengthy investigation done in 2015 and nothing was turned up then. So it's just hard to try and piece together information when you don't have a starting point.
So let's do this here. So there's Micah Road right there. I think this was the corner of Micah Road and Cedar Ridge Lane here. So right here, I think that's where that sign was, just there. So this was in Burleson, Texas. Go back here.
So to speak. We know she went missing, and we know perhaps she's been seen a few times since, or at least the indication is her name has been run through in the NCIC. But
Honeybee, thank you for coming in. You're awesome. Always good to see you. Honeybee has a great channel. I can promote her channel all day if I had to. She's a great person. She does great work. Awesome human being. Have a good weekend, Honeybee.
Other than that, we really have no place to start looking. So publicity like this is ultimately what's going to resolve this case, at least in my opinion.
I know in your work, you have to investigate every possible theory. Do you have a hunch here as you look at this case?
Not really. I think there are just so many possibilities. I hate to jump to any conclusions. I do believe she was alive and well for a while, and I think sometimes what happens is you get false leads that you put too much credence in and maybe lead you off in the wrong direction. For instance, the statement that she was going to Melbourne and the call was from a spoof number. So there was really no confirmation that she was ever in Florida. She may have been, we don't know. Was she in fact at the airport up in Oregon, or was she up in Fort Worth, Texas? Again, we don't know. So
well, the age progression photo certainly helps for what she may look like now. And I think, Lou, about her family and her sister, Kendall Watt, we have a clip of a soundbite from her sister and just the heartbreak that they live with every day, knowing that Samantha may be out there. Let's play that for folks at home.
Yeah, it's very hard.
I miss having her present, like she having been adopted and her being the only family that I had as a constant. It's hard to not have that now.
Lou, how closely are you working with the family?
Off and on, I try and keep in touch with Kendall as much as I can. Certainly, if something comes up that she has a question on, or looking for some information, I help her out. If I hear anything or if there's any indication, I'll contact her. We check in now and then just to see if there's anything new. But it's very difficult on these families. That it really takes a toll on them, and it's one of the hardest parts, I think, of these cold case investigations is dealing with the families and understanding what they're going through, the ups and downs and the hopes and the despair that they feel on these long-term missing person cases.
Yeah, private investigators often fill a void, right? It's the unknown for these families. I mentioned the Burleson Police Department. Is there still an active investigation, or has this case gone cold?
Well, Burleson, when I initially talked to them, they were very cooperative, or as cooperative as they could be. Much of the information relating to her was when she was a juvenile, which under Texas laws is protected. So they were unable to really share much with me. However, they went out of their way to find a way, and actually I signed a contract with them as a consultant on the case, which allowed access to the reports. And that was very helpful. And they, I believe, would love to have this case solved.
Yeah, the uncle thing is a little weird because why would she only go see him? And I want to know if he's the only one that saw her, because that might be a little nefarious there. Hey, Vid Inquiries, how are you? Good to see you. She has a great, Vid Inquiries has a great channel too. I did catch a couple of the lives they did, and great channel. I wasn't able to catch a lot of lives this week because just a lot of shit going on, but they got a good channel for sure. So if you got any information regarding Samantha Tapp, the Burleson Police Department, 817-426-9903. I think Steve's going to Texas, so he'll find her.
Do they have the resources because of their current caseload? That's a different question. So I don't know how much they themselves are actively pursuing things, just because they have a lack of resources when it comes to this type of investigation. They're time consuming, and they have new cases coming in every single day. So it's really a difficult task for any department to try and devote the resources to cases that are 10, 15, or 20 years old. Makes it very difficult.
Indeed. As you gained access to some of that evidence, the case file, what stood out to you most? And is there one overarching question that you've yet to be able to answer, or one clue that you're still trying to follow?
I think I went through everything that they have done, everything the Attorney General's office has done, and they really put a lot of effort into the case. It gets to the point where
Dude, you don't want to see me 5 days a week. Nobody on this planet wants to see me 5 days a week. Wish me Steve would help find Sarah Ann Wood. If anyone can find the missing, it's Mr. Steve. Absolutely. It's my therapy time. We love you, Heather. You're awesome. Sarah Ann Wood, I can you're great, Steve.
nothing to follow. There are no more leads. And I, went through everything that they did, and
things usually come down to a tip, right? Like they usually come down to that one, person who might be reluctant to call in a tip at the time when it happens, because who knows, they may be afraid for their life. They may be in a situation where if they, open their mouth, they may end up being the next person disappearing. So sometimes it comes down to a tip later on in life. But this is a strange case because the cell phone pings are weird.
And recontacted people and spoke to people when I could locate them. And there's nothing really, to me. I think what differentiates this case maybe a little bit from some is that there has been potential contact with her over the years, in 2005 and 2011 and 2014. So there's a pattern there that if.
What I will say is law enforcement doesn't stop. A lot of people think they do, but they don't. Like this guy's saying, there's other cases, so they can't concentrate on one case that's 20 years old. They got other things to worry about. But if they get a tip, if they get something, they'll get on it for sure.
If those contacts were in fact accurate, that she is still alive and well out there somewhere, which really gives the family hope. In many of the cases that we get through the nonprofit that I volunteer with, their person disappears and there's just no sign of them again. And obviously that makes it much less hopeful that they are alive and well out there. But I think in Samantha's case, it's very, very possible that she's perhaps, settled down, got a new life, changed her name, gotten married, whatever, and wants to leave her old life behind. And that's fine. I understand that she's an adult. She can do what she wants. But if she could just contact her family and her sister, Kendall, and let her know, hey, I'm okay, that would go a long way to ending this mystery surrounding her for the family anyways.
Yeah, I said that last night on Southern Gals Live. Thankfully, some of these criminals are just really dumb, and they just leave shit all over the place. But Steve's got a point there. If I had, all the money in the world and I had free time, I'd just go out and try finding some of these people myself. Yes, idiots also help the case. Idiots they're everywhere.
Well, hope is that fuel that keeps these families invested and engaged and gets them up in the morning, that their person is out there. So Samantha, if you see this, please let your family know that you're okay. And to the public, if you see Samantha and you recognize her or were around at the time of her disappearance, please come forward. And certainly the age progression photo helps. Lou Berry, private investigator on this case. Thank you, sir, for your time. We'll stay in touch. If you have information, contact the Burleson Police Department about some.
All right, so that's that case. Like I said, I'll try to do more of a deep dive on this in a different live. But I just wanted to, every week I'm going to try to feature some of these, missing people here. All right, so what are we doing now? We're going to go to this bitch. Sorry for the French here. So we did a little bit of this last week. She's up for parole here soon. And this is the case. Everybody probably knows about this case. This is the Susan Smith case. She's up for parole hearing soon. And this person here should never be let out of prison ever.
Imaginable, the unforgivable.
I want to say to my babies that your mama loves you so much.
For a moment in time, Susan Smith had the entire nation hanging on her death.
This was done a day ago. A Southern woman has been in prison for unaliving her 2 sons in 1994. She blamed everybody else, her ex-husband and many others, to testify that she needs to remain behind bars. So, and I second that.
Desperate pleas. But after days of television appearances, her deception revealed.
Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That kind of just slipped out. I'm sorry. Sorry, Jenny.
With the deaths of her children.
Now, 30 years after a jury convicted her and sent her to prison for life, the 52-year-old convict is getting her first chance at parole. Tonight, those who remember the case vividly telling us why she should not go free.
The jury truly believed and chose to give her life, believing she would spend the rest of her life in prison, being remorseful, thinking about Michael and Alex.
Even her ex-husband coming out in a rare television interview.
She doesn't deserve to ever be free again.
On October 25th, 1994, Susan reported what we now know was a fake story about how a black man with a gun carjacked her and drove off with her son still strapped into their car seats.
I've been on the highway in this same area with my children at that exact same time. It's too close to your heart.
The idea of a white woman accusing a black man of a crime where that man did not even exist. It's always the ability to kind of point to that boogeyman, point to that black man that committed the crime.
Susan and her husband appeared together as a united front, David believing Susan's pleas.
Your mom and dad are going to be right here waiting on you when you get home. I love you so much.
To the public, it was compelling stuff. To the authorities, they had questions early on.
Behind the scenes, law enforcement is focusing more on the discrepancies, and little by little, her story was unraveling.
On November 3rd, 9 days after the boys went missing, investigators confronted Susan, and the 23-year-old confessed.
We're going to make a brief announcement. Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with.
The thing is, I don't think she ever had law enforcement fooled. I just don't. I think they were onto her right from the beginning. I remember this case.
2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children, Michael 3 and Alexander 14 months.
I almost dropped to my knees. I mean, did he say kill?
How could she have 2 children and do them like that?
This was a stunning moment. The woman who's on TV.
Yeah, I think initially the husband stuck up for her, but then I don't think he bought it either after a while. Yeah, this woman here is trying to be nice.
Calling for help. She's the one who did this?
In her handwritten confession, Smith wrote that on the night of October 25th, she didn't want to live anymore. She detailed how she was in love with someone very much, but he didn't love her and never would. She says she decided to kill herself and her sons because she didn't want them to grow up without a mom. She drove to John DeLong Lake, got out of the car, put it in neutral, and let it roll down the boat ramp.
Unbelievable. Ugh. Thank God.
Ramp. into the water with her boys inside. Tommy Pope is now a state representative in South Carolina. Back then, he was the lead prosecutor in the case.
I tried a lot of horrible cases, but the media component just took everything you would normally have in a case and put it on steroids.
For months, the focus of the nation was on this tiny town, hitting a fever pitch.
She blamed everybody. She just is just so. Ugh. People.
Just days before the trial, when investigators reenacted the crime. At trial, prosecutors played that reenactment and heard testimony from one of the divers who described seeing a small hand against the car window at the bottom of the lake. The
This is going to be disturbing.
jury also heard from her ex-lover, Tom Findlay.
You have someone saying, yeah, I was in this relationship with her and broke it off because I didn't want the responsibility of children. Now the fingers pointed directly at her. I think it gives her the intent.
Susan Smith's main defense, her mental health.
They focused a lot on her background, on what had happened to her as a child, being molested, being troubled, and tried to portray her as something other than a monster.
The jury found Susan guilty after just 2 hours of deliberation.
There was a tough psychological component going here. People didn't want to believe that a mother could do that. It made it tougher with the jury in that regard because you want to at least find a mental health reason. Fortunately, the jury came back with murder.
When the sentencing decision came down in late July 1995,
just moments ago, the jury of 9 men and 3 women decided that Susan Smith should spend the rest of her natural life in prison.
now 52, Susan has been behind bars for more than half her life. Her records show details of misbehavior, including at least 3 instances of drug use. She was also sanctioned for mutilation. In 2015, 20 years after her son's murders, Susan wrote a letter to a local newspaper. She said, "I'm not the monster society
I'm not the monster society thinks I am. Yes, you are.
thinks I am. I am far from it. Something went very wrong that night. I was not myself. I was a good mother and I loved my boys."
Yeah, it's always about her. It's always about the person. It's never about, that's how you can tell, right? It's always about her. I'm not the person that you think I am. I. Nothing about my poor children that I killed. It's like, yeah, I don't think this person should ever get parole, ever.
She maintains that she had no motive and she was not in her right mind. That's an argument she can try with the parole board and hope that with today's better understanding of mental health and the impacts of sexual trauma, they may listen.
From what we see of South Carolina so far in the year 2024, only 5% of people have been released on parole. So the chances of Susan Smith being released.
There was nothing in that note that I read where it's like, oh, I feel so bad for my children. Like I'm not the person. I'm not. Yeah, you are.
Released are that much smaller.
We reached out to Susan Smith for comment, and she has yet to respond. She has reportedly been calling family and male friends, saying she's convinced she will be let out. Her ex-husband disagrees, recently speaking in a rare interview with Court TV.
I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure.
Michael Daniel, Alexander Child, 1993. Ugh.
You stay behind bars.
For more on this shocking story, watch Impact by Nightlines. Killer Mom.
All right, so that's the end of that. Hopefully she doesn't get released. That's why they do life in prison, is not to release them. Is that Curious Contrarian? Yes. Hey, buddy, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Yeah, she needs a sub. She definitely doesn't need to be let out, that's for sure. All right, so let's go to this here. I wanted to go to this because Southern Gal covered this a little bit last night to the Asher Degree case here. This is the interview. This guy here, this detective, this is one of the original guys that was on this case here. This person right here, this is the Asher Degree case. They were out there searching 3 properties. I think it was either last week or the week before that. And they took out that car. This is one of the original detectives here. He's this guy here is just an amazing human being. He just is. So here's his take on this case here. So Asher Degree went missing about 24 years ago. My theory on this case is she might have been struck by a car, and they tried to kind of cover this thing up a little bit, but I could be wrong. I've been following this case for a long time. But I think they're getting close to answers. Unfortunately, I think the person who's ultimately responsible for this is probably no longer with us. So I don't know. So anyways, here's this here.
I always have folks do this so I get it right. Can I get you to give me your first and last name and spell it for me, please?
Can everybody hear this?
Richard, last name Schaefer, Shaffer.
Okay. And so do you prefer Rich or Rick? I'm sorry.
Rick.
Rick. Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. All right.
Okay. So we spoke on the phone, and as I mentioned, we're just really interested in hearing about your take working on this case and how you seem to have developed such a personal connection to it, and clearly to the point where you were carrying around Aisha's photo with you for more than a decade.
Yeah. So when we first got called into the case by Sheriff Crawford the day after Aisha was missing, I went down there. I was the supervisor of the violent crimes squad at that time, went down there with a handful of agents to see how we could assist. When I got to the house, it was in a relatively rural area in Cleveland County, a working class neighborhood. The homes were, for the most part, well kept. The working class families walked into the house. Nothing struck me as unusual. There wasn't any indication of, that wasn't kept up. The house seemed to be in good order. The family was obviously very distraught. And when we
So let me see here. I don't know if people can see this. What did I just do here? Okay. So that's the car right there. That's the car that they pulled out. I don't know if people can see this, but that's the car that they took from one of the properties there. So you can see that this car is definitely not from the 2000s. This car goes back to, I think this is a 60s car here. So that's the car there. So let me go back to this here. This is a pretty interesting interview here.
We started to get into the story of what happened. I remember Aisha's mom giving me a photo of her, and I obviously had never met her before. I saw the photo and I was just struck by not only how pretty she was, but how innocent she looked. And immediately my mind drifted to the fact that I had a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old little boy at the same time. And as the story started to unfold, I was struggling.
Horror stories don't really bother me either. I mean, technically my life is a horror story, so it's not funny. Me without coffee, like my first cup of coffee is a horror story. That's for sure. That's very scary. Like if I don't have my first cup of coffee, it's bad.
With trying to be as mindful professionally to find Aisha, but also resisting the fear and the angst that they must have been feeling with this young child who left the house unexplained in the middle of the night. Now, keep in mind, this was February the 14th. It was a cold, chilly night, raining. We're in a rural area, so it was very dark. The weather was obviously not good. And for a 9-year-old to voluntarily leave her house and embark upon.
I'm actually afraid of myself when I don't have coffee, right? If I don't have coffee, it's not good. Especially my first coffee. Like the first coffee is, that's what starts it all.
On a journey on foot in a rural, dark area in the middle of the night was just unconscionable. I mean, we couldn't figure out what would cause that to happen. You know, obviously, you look at a number of different things right in the center of just unconscionable. I mean, we couldn't figure out what would cause that to happen. You know, obviously, you look at a number of different things right in the center of the house and figure, okay, what would cause this little girl to be that upset to leave in the middle of the night? And it's unfortunate that we weren't able to resolve it quickly, but nevertheless, it was clear after weeks of investigation that the parents were not the target of this investigation. They were obviously victims just like Aisha. They've lost their little girl. And as a parent, as well as a law enforcement officer, I was just dumbfounded at the reason that she would leave, but I was just crushed over the fact that this little girl was out there. She could have been scared, hurt, somewhere where we couldn't find her, and we felt helpless in that respect. But
So the thing is that I can kind of go over where this happened, but those roads out there especially Western North Carolina at night, they're pretty dark. There's no lights, there's nothing, and I'm pretty sure it was raining that night and pretty miserable. So for her to go out in that is kind of bizarre. But at the same time, you can't really see a lot on those roads at night.
I remember that night after the first day, I went back home and I told my wife about this particular case. And I just asked her, would we be asking the same questions if one of our two sons decided to walk out of the house in the middle of the night and disappear? You'd be asking yourself, what did you do? What did we do to cause that? And it was just unthinkable.
I was listening to a case the other night where the little girl used to threaten that she was going to run away. This was a case back in, I think it was 80s or something like that. So the grandfather used to, kid around with her and get her clothes ready and pack her a little lunch and stuff like that. So one night she did that. She threatened to leave. He packed the little kit to take with her, and she left, and they never found her again. So, the grandfather never forgave himself because she left that night. She never came back. So kids do that stuff all the time.
And for the longest time, I made this a priority case.
My idiot brother ran away twice. He ran away twice. And he went to the same place.
In my life. I carried her photo around with me for years. I chased with every lead with the same zeal that we had that night years later. Every lead that we had, I made sure it was pursued. Even after I retired from the FBI.
Miss Barbara Hall, we're always thinking about you. Always thinking about you and your son. Hopefully you get some answers
I made a point of going back periodically and meeting the new supervisors that inherited the case and just asked them if they could tell me that they're still keeping the case active. And they were. They never turned it into a cold case. It was always a priority case. And they made sure, not only on the anniversary, but prior to the anniversary, that every piece of information came in, they ran it down. So I was heartened by that part of it.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
38 years.
And where does this case rank for you?
Well, in my time, I started off as a policeman and then went with naval criminal and investigative service for a while. But in the FBI, it's probably.
Hey, it's Cold Truth. How you doing, Cold Truth? Good to see you. Hey, Charlie, don't surf. Good to see you too. Mel's in the house. Mel's got a great channel too. Cold Truth is an amazing human being. She's very smart, very intelligent. She's got a great channel. I try to catch her lives as much as I possibly can, if I'm not sleeping, obviously. But she's really intelligent, very smart, awesome channel. Good to have her in here. Hey, good look, see. How's it going, buddy? Get a look, see's in here. Thank you for coming in. Just going over this interview with the I think it's a former detective now, in the Asha Degree case. I think I'm saying that wrong. It's Asha Degree case. Unfortunately, I think this guy that did this is dead. But we'll see.
The one case that haunts me forever because I was never able to, not necessarily.
You can tell from this interview that this guy's never going to forget this case ever.
Solve it because there are cases we couldn't solve, but we never had any understanding of the motive that caused her to leave. So it was very hard to resolve a case when you didn't know what the reason was that caused her to leave in the first place. Was it, a friend or an acquaintance, a teacher, a coach, somebody lured?
Cold Truth is the one that got me onto the Kimberly Moreau case. I'm probably going to be heading up there fairly shortly. I want to go up to J Main and take a look around. I definitely want to. That's another one of those cases that bothers me. But I'm going to get up there and try to look around. I want to take a look at that that area there, especially around the river there.
Her out of the house. We never found any evidence of that. And that part bothered me more than anything. I felt like so many times that we failed that little girl because we couldn't put a reason why she left. If we could figure out the reason why, it would help us focus on people that either had her.
Is Steve still in here? If Steve's still in here, I wonder if they probably thoroughly looked into whether or not she was getting any type of abuse at the house.
Took her, or ultimately it looks like hurt her.
I think that maybe some folks might be surprised to hear that, someone who's investigating this case takes it so personally. I think in the sense of sometimes when you do difficult work and you're trying to navigate through a lot of different traumatic crimes and whatnot, maybe you try to separate from that and try to protect yourself. But it seems like you really, in some ways, allowed yourself to get steeped in this case and take it personally.
Well, I did, and you're right. You always have to try and separate yourself from the case so you don't lose objectivity. But in this particular case, it was hard to explain.
I need a lot of help. In fact, I need so much help. It's pretty much not. There's no such thing as enough help. But thank you, Cold Truth. There isn't enough help for me. Or hope.
That when I saw that picture of her, immediately my mind went to, oh my goodness, she's out there somewhere in the dark, in the middle of the night, scared, cold. She obviously left under her own volition for what we could determine. And I just could never get my head wrapped around the fact that she left that house and the warmth of her family. And for every investigative lead we had, the family was supportive. They were faith-based. They loved her. We couldn't tie anything directly to any problem in the house. So what caused her to go? And that part was the most difficult. I mean, I've worked parental kidnapping cases where you understand one of the parents took the child, and then it becomes a matter of trying to find that child. It was so hard to find Aisha because we really didn't know where to look, because we didn't have any starting point once she left the house. We had some.
Thank you, Steve. So I'm sure they looked into that. So if there was any hint of any type of CA or they probably would have figured that out, right? Because you never know what happens in people's homes. I know that.
Witnesses that told us that, okay, they thought they saw her along the road. We conducted interviews there, but nothing ever surfaced that gave us any credibility to that. So there were so many loose ends and dead ends in the beginning. We couldn't help witnesses that told us that, okay, they thought they saw her along the road. We conducted interviews there, but nothing ever surfaced that gave us any credibility to that.
That's interesting.
So there were so many loose ends and dead ends in the beginning. We couldn't help but be just frustrated, disappointed, and discouraged by it. And what a lot of people lose perspective is to realize that people.
I'm going to try to. The reason why I want to go up this time of the year up there is because of the foliage, the leaves falling off the trees. So, yes, I'm planning to go up there very shortly, within the next month or so. I want to get up there, and I love Maine. Maine is I've been lost in Maine many of times. So, I just want to check out some of the areas around there. But thank you, Coach.
People in law enforcement, whether they're a state or local law enforcement or a federal agent, we're all human.
So I don't really know if there's any truth to the rumors that people saw her walking, because he just said they don't know if there was any truth to those witnesses seeing that. So,
beings, we're all parents, we're grandparents, and we understand the hurt that the Degrees were going through and their family. We wanted nothing more than to help them through their pain, get some resolution to this. What to me is to find that little girl safe was something that was paramount. And
well, this is 2020, so there might have been cell phones. There's definitely cell phone towers, I would think.
I carried that photo for the longest time. I thought after I retired from the FBI and I was working in cases where I was doing background investigations on people that were looking to take jobs in the federal government, I found myself down in that Cleveland County area on occasion and thought, okay, 15, 17, 18 years later, I'd be talking to potential candidates were these young children that were her peers at that time.
Well, have a great night, Vid Inquiries. Thank you so much for coming in. The Vid Inquiries got a great channel. If you go to Maine, right? If you go, especially the coast, there's everybody. There's everybody. That's where everybody lives. You know, the further west you go, there's nothing. Literally nothing. There's towns like J Maine and stuff like that, but outside of that, it's so sparse. It's just yeah, have a good night, Vid Inquiries. Thank you so much for coming in. The coast is awesome. It's just the coast after, say, August or September, bring a jacket. It's pretty cold.
thinking that, okay, if I ever came across them, I'd show them the photos, see if I could engage them in conversation, and hope that we sort of, resurrect those conversations that we had with schoolmates, classmates, playmates, 15, 18, 20 years ago, and hope that maybe something resonates with them.
What was your reaction when you heard recently that there had been some development?
Well, first and foremost, I was so proud of the FBI. They never, ever quit with this. Law enforcement didn't quit. The State Bureau of Investigation, Cleveland County made it a priority. But the FBI took this case and continued to make it a priority within the ranks of the FBI. Like I told you,
they did a survey, you know how people say that the middle of nowhere, stuck in the middle of nowhere. They did a survey, like, I think it was 10 years ago now, where exactly the middle of nowhere is. And number one on the list is somewhere, I think in Utah, somewhere. Second place was Maine. There's places in Maine that people in Maine don't even know where they are. It's kind of weird. There's literally nothing there.
Every supervisor that succeeded me in that position made sure that the Aisha Degree case stayed active, that they would pursue all leads. When Valentine's Day came around on that anniversary, there was always an aggressive campaign to go out and through billboards and marketing, increasing the rewards to try and generate some sort of positive information. So I couldn't be more proud of the fact that the men and women in the FBI were so vigilant and cared so deeply about this little girl that they continue with all the work they have to do on a daily basis, made sure that this was a priority. So now we're at a point where there's been some very positive results.
Yeah, they literally put a phone booth there. There was a phone booth for the longest time, like a payphone booth. It might have actually been, I forget where it was. It was somewhere, Nevada or Utah, somewhere. They had a phone booth that people could just go and call people from this phone booth. It was literally in the middle of nowhere. And I think they did the survey on exactly how many people were around this specific area, how many miles it was to an actual, house or whatever. So, yeah, it was definitely, it's either the Utah, Nevada, somewhere around there. Maine was second. I forget the actual town name, but it was, especially northern Maine, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing there. There's more moose there than anything else.
And I don't know what's going on, particularly with the case, other than there's been search warrants executed. I've seen some of the press conferences from Cleveland.
It could be because they're close to the Canadian border. I don't know.
County Sheriff's Department. It's very encouraging. I hope it all turns out to be evidence that brings some resolution to it. It sounds like from their explanation that Aisha obviously is no longer with us, but that doesn't mean that we can't bring to justice the people that were responsible for it. So I'm very heartened with that. I just hope it's soon, because I do still feel so badly for the Degrees that they definitely need to have some closure for their little girl.
And given all that's happened here with this case from the start to now, at whatever point this ends up being where we are now with this case, I guess, what sort of message would you send to families who might be in similar situations, waiting for answers? Maybe it's been years, decades, who knows? I mean, anything that you'd like to share with families who are waiting for news?
Obviously I've not been in that situation, so it's hard to hold on, but they held on for 24 years. And I think they need to be encouraged about the fact that there are men and women in law enforcement that say, look, we're not going to forget about a child after 24 years. We're going to continue to be as vigilant as we can. It's such a testament to the vigilance of law enforcement that we're into the third decade of this child being missing, and they never, ever gave up. So you need to be encouraged if you can continue to have confidence in law enforcement and understand that they'll continue to pursue this no matter what the cost is. To that, I'm very thankful. And if I was a parent in that situation, it'd be hard for me to tell you what I feel, but what I would say is don't ever give up because your child is out there. If there's an opportunity for you to have some closure, keep the faith, believe that God will eventually bring some closure in your life. And in this particular case, I do believe that law enforcement has served at least the degree as well. And it's not going to turn out to the outcome that we all had hoped. But nevertheless, 24 years later, almost a quarter of a century later, we're going to bring some closure to this case. And I think that's extraordinary.
Those are all my questions. Did you have anything else you wanted to add that I didn't ask you?
No, I don't think so. Again, I would just ask people to, understand how dedicated and committed law enforcement is, in today's world, sometimes that's not always what people think, but I can tell you there are men and women that wear the badge, that put on the uniform, that work for the federal law enforcement agency, state or local. They care every single day. They're coaches, they're teachers, they're parents. And this is a testament that they care deeply, not only about the profession, but as human beings and as members of the community, that they're not going to leave any rock unturned when it comes to trying to find a precious little gift like Aisha Degree that's part of their community.
This guy's awesome. He's definitely dedicated to this case. My map app is out to get me. It sends me on routes with no phone service. Map works. The phone. Do you think Ruckus did that to you? I don't know if this was the phone. Maybe Ruckus is out to try to get you. Anyways, that's a case I'll be following. I think they're getting close with this case. They wouldn't have searched those 3 properties if they weren't. I'll keep updating on that. Let's go to this case here because this is another one of these. Why? Okay, so this happened this week too. I don't know if anybody's heard about this judge. This guy just shot him. This again happened in Kentucky. Matt Murphy, defense attorney and former homicide prosecutor, tells Banfield that anything is possible when it comes to prosecuting the sheriff, Sean M. Steins, for the unaliving death of District Judge Kevin Mullins. But the facts of the case have the potential to put the sheriff away for life and possibly the death penalty, really. So this is bizarre. Has anybody heard about this case? It just unalive the judge.
Comes in. He is a defense attorney and a former homicide prosecutor in Orange County, California. He's just written The Book of Murder, a prosecutor's journey through love and death. And he's kind enough to help me sort through this now. Matt, dear God, I mean, you've heard the details I just laid out. You heard the interview that I just did with Mike Watts, the Letcher County Circuit Court clerk, with those details that he said there is a video, that he has heard the details of the video, that the sheriff was seated across from the judge, that the judge handed the sheriff his phone. The sheriff looked.
When you hear about cases like this, you just wonder if there's any actual human beings living on this planet anymore. I mean, why?
Looked at the phone, put it down on the desk, stood up, walked around, unloaded 8 bullets into the judge, picked the phone up again of the judge, looked at it again, put it down, and left the courthouse, only to return back in the front door of the courthouse, go into the courtroom, and lay down his service weapon. What do you make of the series of events and the case itself?
Well, first of all, actually, that was a fantastic.
Like one of those movies years ago, where they had the whole annihilation of humans and there's only like 2 or 3 people left. You wonder sometimes. Is Dean still here, right? Again, I want to thank everybody for coming in. This case is just straight out of bizarre. This is weird.
Fantastic interview that you just did, because that man, it was palpable, his grief. And he's talking about the human elements, and he said both of these are honorable men. And that you did a great job of introducing the complexities of a case like this. And murders commonly are between people who know each other. In fact, it's the most common circumstance, not a judge and a bailiff, but people that have known each other very well and worked together or lived together in some capacity for years and years. And you could just feel that man's grief as he was answering your questions. So the DA, 100%, I have nothing but respect for that man. That was the right thing to do, recusing himself. And you'd be surprised, Ashley, or maybe you wouldn't, how many DAs cling to cases because it's high profile and they think they might get, some notoriety for their office or maybe additional funding or some panache. That DA did exactly the right thing. So I think that right now behind the scenes, the state attorney general and a county prosecutor in a different county are probably figuring out who's going to be the lead. And I suspect what we're going to see is just one of them at the end of the day. And their comments are perfect. For a small county, they've handled this very professionally.
Let me ask you this. I felt so bad for Mr. Watts when I was interviewing him now, the clerk, because it is clear, as you said, he is close to both of those men and loved both of them dearly and was hesitant to indict the man who he knows on tape committed the shooting. How is it going to be to get witnesses to come forward if that man who's the clerk feels that way? How about the rest of the friends of the judge and the friends of the sheriff and the friends of both of them? I mean, how are they going to be compelled to be fulsome in their testimony?
Well, I think that what we're going to see, especially in this is the heart of America type stuff. I mean, these small towns, and this is going to be I think these people will testify truthfully. I suspect that there's going to be no joy in any of it. But this is a do the right thing kind of place. And I suspect you got salt of the earth witnesses who, reluctant or not, they're going to come in and do their best to tell the truth and let the jury sort it out. Now, one thing that's worth noting here is that in the state of Kentucky, this is a public official who was murdered on government property. This potentially qualifies for the death penalty. So this is a tremendously serious case. They don't execute a lot of people in Kentucky, contrary to popular myth. They haven't executed anybody in that state since 2006. But this is, they charge him with first-degree murder. This guy's in a lot of trouble. And those facts that you just went through also. Yep.
Those are troubling. I only have about 30 seconds left, but I have to ask you this. With that series of details that we just heard about picking up the phone, putting it down, shooting, picking up the phone again, putting it down, is it at all possible that this could be reduced to second-degree heat of passion?
Well, anything's possible. I don't see a plea here. And look, this has all the hallmarks of a very angry confrontation over this 1983 action. But he shot him 8 times. It looks very much like first-degree murder. The defense will argue that this is a voluntary manslaughter, a heat of passion killing. Maybe they can go for a second-degree murder, but with a gun enhancement in the state of Kentucky. That's from now on for this man. So this is a very sad case. It's a fascinating case, but this is also why nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find news.
It's just really weird how this guy just it's weird. Let's look at this one here.
Mickey and Kevin were really close and good friends. I never saw any hostilities between them.
Residents in Letcher County are struggling to cope with a shooting involving 2 of its most prominent citizens. District Judge Kevin Mullen.
Hello, Michelle C. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, if you want to fall back to sleep, this is the channel to do it with. It's like watching a baseball game in the middle of the day. It's a great way to put yourself to sleep, especially a National League game.
Is dead after authorities say the county sheriff shot and killed him in the judge's chambers on Thursday. Many residents have told WHAS 11 they have nothing but praise for them both. Residents also said the 2 worked closely to help people who struggled with substance abuse to get the treatment they need and were leaders in addressing the opioid crisis.
These were 2 great pillars of the community that we have now
in a sense, lost. This is just one of those things you're just waiting to wake up from the nightmare, but because
You just wonder what could have happened, right? You just wonder, why could things get this heated to evolve into this?
dream that anything like this is ever going to happen in your small town, especially Whitesburg. And here we are, and you just don't know where to turn from one moment to the next.
According to the Letcher County.
I will have to say that of my favorite accents in the world, Kentucky is definitely up there on the list. Like, everybody from Kentucky talks fantastic. It's such a great accent.
The Circuit Court Clerk, Judge Mullins, and County Sheriff Sean Steins were together shortly before noon on Thursday. The clerk said the two seemed to be having an ordinary interaction and were planning to get lunch together. WHAS 11's Isaiah Kim Martinez and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton spoke with attorneys and former judges
8 times. Not just once, not twice, but 8 times. That tells me that there was something wrong.
Here in Louisville who are also still processing this news.
Well, it didn't take long for attorneys and former judges here in Louisville to hear about this news, disturbed by the fact that this kind of violence could happen in the courthouse, a place they say they almost always feel safe.
Not only affects judges, it affects the court system as a whole.
Retired District Court Judge Janice Martin.
I mean, 8 times to me, that sounds like, a personal, like, here, take that. That's what that sounds like to me.
Like so many who've worked in the judicial system across Kentucky, is deeply troubled by the violence that played out in that Eastern Kentucky courthouse.
I'm very saddened and horrified about the event, because I'm sure that's a very traumatic event for all of those people that were involved.
Letcher County District Judge Kevin Mullins shot and killed in his own chambers, and authorities believe it was the sheriff, Sean Steins, who pulled the trigger and shot him multiple times. Investigators are trying to confirm a motive. Matt Butler, the state prosecutor for the area, on Facebook sharing his personal connection to the judge.
His daughters are my nieces, and that my 2 oldest kids are his niece and nephew.
There are questions surrounding a federal lawsuit against Sheriff Steins, accused of turning a blind eye to one of his deputies sexually abusing a woman in that same judge's chambers.
It would be a locked
Maybe he didn't want to pay for lunch. I don't know.
area, and only the judge and his staff would have access to that.
Mullins died at the scene, and Steins surrendered to authorities. A KSP spokesperson says the sheriff is charged with first-degree murder. Isaiah Kim Martinez, WHAS 11, on your side.
Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman says his office will work with a Commonwealth's attorney in London, Kentucky, as the special prosecutor in this case.
That's strange. It's just really weird. But it's America. Okay, so let's switch to this au pair thing here. Another au pair. Okay, I mean, it's just bizarre. So this is the been kind of following in and out of this here. The Virginia man accused of plotting with the au pair to unalive his wife and another guy. Let's see here. Did I share this yet? Yep. Okay. So Brendan Banfield, another Banfield here. A Virginia husband is accused of plotting with his family's au pair to unalive his wife and another man in their home. Banfield was taken into custody by Virginia police nearly a year and a half after the alleged double unaliving plot. So this is this trial going on? No, this was done 3 days ago. Yeah.
Tonight, a Virginia husband charged in a gruesome double murder, accused of plotting with the family's au pair to kill his wife. Fairfax County Police taking Brendan Banfield into custody. A year and a half after his wife, Christine Banfield, was found stabbed to death in the family's home, and another man, Joseph Ryan, was found shot nearby.
Caller saying he shot someone. There's a 34-year-old female that got stabbed by someone, and then he shot him.
That's a terrible case. Oh, the boy's mom died 2005. That's terrible. that ancestry stuff, though, man, I'm telling you.
The au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhães of Brazil, told police she and Brendan found Ryan attacking Christine in a bedroom, and that Brendan, a law enforcement officer for the Internal Revenue Service, shot and mortally wounded the man mid-attack. But investigators say for months they believed there was more to the story.
I suspected, I had a feeling that there was a lot more to what met the eye that morning. And certainly it has taken a road 570 days later, where we are finally in a position to announce that 2 persons are being charged and held responsible.
8 months after the killings, police arrested Magalhães, accusing her of firing the shot that killed Ryan after a forensic analysis of the scene. NBC reached out to the attorneys for both Banfield and Magalhães, but have not heard back. Magalhães has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder and is awaiting trial. Despite the arrest, police say their investigation still had unanswered questions, including victim Joseph Ryan's connection to Christine Banfield. A search of the family's computer revealed an online profile in Christine's name on a fetish sex website, according to prosecutors, as well as communication on the site with Ryan. But the way in which the messages were written didn't seem as though they'd come from Christine, and police say they believe it was someone else communicating with Ryan. A further search of the home just before the au pair's arrest also turned up evidence of an affair between the husband and the au pair, prosecutors say, including this framed photo of Brendan Banfield and Magalhães. Prosecutors now say they believe it was all an elaborate plot to eliminate Christine so Brendan and Magalhães could be free to be together.
Anything to say about your wife's death?
Brendan Banfield's arrest on charges of aggravated murder and use of a firearm, just the next step in potentially proving that theory.
We're not finished yet. We still know we have more work to do, but I can tell you that this case has been something that's been on my mind. I know it's been on the chief's mind, my prosecutor's minds, since the day it happened.
All right, Valerie Castro joins us now in studio. So Valerie, what other new evidence do we know about that tied them to the husband and the au pair?
So police wouldn't give too many specifics other than to say they have new digital, forensic, physical evidence. They presented that to a grand jury.
I'm telling you, man, people are just batshit crazy. This stuff here, like you're gonna get away with this, right?
Jury that led to an indictment, and that led to this arrest. But earlier this year in April, prosecutors were at a hearing that involved the au pair, and they presented a lot more evidence, including evidence they say.
Steve, thank you so much for coming in. Mr. Steve is absolutely amazing. He's an amazing person. Mrs. Steve, the whole family. Can't say enough good things about Mr. Steve. Thank you so much for coming in. Safe travels. Good luck on that, what you're doing. Just great person, great people. Thank you so much for coming in, Steve.
That shows Brendan Banfield at a shooting range, a firing range.
If anybody doesn't know who Steve is, he has his true crime channel, True Crime Web. Him and Mrs. Steve usually. He does cold cases. He helps out so many families. Got the True Crime Web Foundation. Great people. He's just an amazing person.
Range, along with the au pair, in the months leading up to the murders.
Oh, there you go. Okay. And do we know what's next in this case?
So Brendan is expected to be arraigned before the end of this week. The au pair, as we mentioned, she is awaiting trial. That is set for November. In the meantime, they are both being held at the Fairfax County Jail.
And I know in the story we focused a lot on what happened, but what do we know about this wife that was brutally murdered?
Christine Banfield, she was a mother to a 4-year-old daughter that she had with Brendan Banfield. She would be about 5 or 6 years old now. Police wouldn't go into a lot of details about the whereabouts of that child now, but if you take a look at Christine's social media profile, she has dozens and dozens of photos of her daughter, clearly a doting mother. We've also learned that she was a nurse who dedicated her life caring for other people.
It's all so terribly sad. Okay.
Another twist in a deadly love triangle case out of Virginia.
This was done 2 days ago. This is a little bit more. Second degree unaliving charged. Okay, so they're second degree
A once loving father and husband is now arrested for his wife's murder. Prosecutors say it's all because he was having an affair with the family's live-in nanny. And
You know, if Steve would just stop burning down the kitchen, that'd be great. Just kidding.
she's involved in all this too. Investigators arrested her nearly 1 year ago, and she's already set to go to trial this fall. There's a lot to unpack with this case, and for that, we'll turn to expert attorney Randy Kessler. I'm Sierra Gillespie, and this is Law and Crime News. Now, this is a story we've been covering for about a year, but the crime dates back even farther than that, to winter 2023. It happened in Herndon, Virginia, about 35 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. That's where the Banfield family lived. Husband Brendan, wife Christine, and their 4-year-old daughter. Also living in the home, their au pair or live-in nanny, then 23-year-old Juliana Perez Megales. It was 7:49 a.m. on February 24th, 2023, when investigators say a 911 call was made by Juliana Perez Megales' phone. There was an issue with the call and dispatch didn't get any information. But 13 minutes later, another 911 call came in from the same phone. But this time, it was 38-year-old Brendan Banfield on the line. When first responders arrived on the scene, they found Christine Banfield with several severe stab wounds. They also found 38-year-old Joseph Ryan, who was pronounced dead on the scene. Ryan's connection with the family is still somewhat of a mystery, which we'll get to in a minute. Right away, paramedics rushed Christine to the hospital, where she was later pronounced dead. Back on the scene, investigators found 2 firearms and a knife. And here's the story they got from Brendan and Megales after the murders. At about 7:30 that morning, Megales left the Banfield home with the 4-year-old daughter. When she realized she'd forgotten their packed lunches, she turned around and went back home.
Have a good night, Cold Truth. Thank you so much for coming in. I hope you have a good weekend. Stay safe. Always good to have Cold Truth in here. Her channel is absolutely amazing. She's very intelligent, very good work. Thank you so much, Cold Truth.
Megales says she arrived to find a car she didn't recognize in the driveway. Together, Megales and Brendan Banfield say they went to the 2nd floor of the home, and that's where they say they found Christine with serious stab wounds. They say Joseph Ryan had attacked Christine, so Brendan sprang into action and shot Joseph Ryan. There's a lot of names here, so let's clear this all up. Brendan Banfield is the husband in the case, who worked as an IRS agent. He says he used his service weapon to shoot Joseph Ryan, who he'd never met before. After the shooting, Joseph Ryan was still alive, so Brendan allegedly told Megales, the au pair, to grab another gun so Joseph Ryan could be shot again. As detectives dug deeper into the murder investigation, they began to find interesting circumstantial evidence against both Brendan and Megales. To start, prosecutors believe Brendan and Megales were having an affair, and that the motive in the case was so that they could live together without his wife.
I mean, that's kind of obvious, right?
When searching Brendan's bedroom, the one he shared with his wife Christine, investigators found framed pictures of he and Megales together. Prosecutors have described her as a, quote, live-in lover, saying they also found her lingerie in the same bedroom.
The thing is that, you know, has anybody ever gotten away with something like this? Probably not. Usually it's a pretty simple thing, a love triangle like this. You would think people would be smarter than this by now. You know, just get a divorce or just whatever. Just, you know, it doesn't ever go unanswered.
On top of that, prosecutors say Brendan and Megales went to a shooting range together a couple months before the murders. Then just 1 month before the murders, Brendan returned to that same
Nothing like a paper trail, right?
Shooting range and purchased a gun. So that happened a month before the murders, but just days before, both Brendan and Megales got rid of their phones, trading them in for new ones. If you're watching this video, it means you're a fan of Law and Crime, and I know that means you're a go-getter. Some of you may even own your own businesses or thinking of there. Investigators found a profile for Christine, but they say the messages she sent don't really add up. According to friends and family, the way the messages are written on the site is not how Christine usually would write her texts or emails. Even still, there are messages showing someone with Christine's username speaking with Joseph Ryan, the other victim. Detectives believe someone else was writing these messages, scheduling a meetup at the family home for the day of the murders. So the double murder happened last February, and about 8 months later,
Right? Framed pictures. It's so weird. Like some of these people are so, I'm telling you, if you just go through some of these love triangle homicides like this here, it's just you realize how stupid people really are. Just who's kind of exactly. Oh.
Megalez was arrested and charged in Joseph Ryan's murder. She's been in custody ever since and is set to go to trial in November. Fast forward to this week, Monday, when investigators issued another.
There's some people that really think these things out, and they create these so-called elaborate schemes to unalive people, and then you have just really, really dumb people that just can't do it. I shouldn't be laughing. It's horrible, but I mean, some people are just,
Another search warrant at the Banfield family home. Officials haven't said what was collected, except that some newly gathered information led to Brendan Banfield's arrest. He was indicted by a grand jury on 4 charges of aggravated murder and use of a firearm in commission of a felony. Now he's being held without bail. So why did it take so long for Brendan's arrest? And what does this mean for the future of Megalez's trial? For all that, we turn to attorney Randy Kessler.
No, I just think this is the kind of case that the public, is in.
I think this trial is actually going to start up fairly soon here.
Interested in, because, people that would do one thing, how far do you go and how bold do you get? And, and P. Diddy case is all over the news, and he had money, power, control, and yet he wanted more and he needed more. I think those are the kind of cases that the public is interested in, is when is enough?
Thank you, Grandma Sherry. Her laundry was in his house. I'm telling you, just some people, they just, they just can't, and they try to cover it up, and the more they cover it up, the more they make the mistakes. It's just
enough. When can a human being, be satisfied? And it's not enough just to be cheating. You want to make sure that you can have the rest of your life alone with her, and that's sort of the easy story to believe. The flip side is the good people are thinking that's not what he did, and it's not true, and we're just trying to find a way to bring closure and blame somebody. They have another good defense, which is this guy John Ryan was a bad guy, and did it, and let's just blame it on him. And despite the fact that the husband wasn't faithful, the wife wasn't faithful either, he's already suffered. He lost his life.
Yeah, that whole Daybell, Lori Daybell, the whole thing. Let's hope we never hear about those people ever again. Let's hope those people just go away forever and just never, you don't hear about them ever again. They're just horrible, horrible people, just animals.
Life, he's been under the, cloud of suspicion. Enough is enough. So which way is the jury going to go? What's the evidence going to be? Fascinating.
When you're going through and researching a case like this, learning the facts and details, what's going through your mind?
What were they thinking, right? I mean, it's just assuming the worst, and lawyers by nature are cynics because we have to prepare for the worst and think, if the worst happened, how do we defend it? I just think, people cheat, people have affairs, and so he was cheating with the au pair. That carries a lot of risk, inherent risk.
This literally sounds like a made-for-a-lifetime movie right here. This is
risk and financial risk. But what makes somebody think, I'm going to get away with this, and it's worth the risk of being caught and being put in jail for the rest of your life? I just don't understand. What can be worth that risk? It just it'll never make sense to me.
Well, this is a story we've kind of been following for a while, because the murders happened way back in February 2023. Then the au pair was arrested in fall of 2023, and now here we are, fall of 2024.
Yeah, because they probably made a deal with, hey, Charlotte, how are you? Good to see you. Charlotte's in the house. It's always good to have Charlotte here. They probably made a deal with the guy, to give up the au pair, and that's how they usually do things.
before and the husband is arrested. I'm wondering why.
Hope you're well, Charlotte. Good to see you.
Why did it take so long for the husband to be arrested and charged?
That's what makes it interesting. And the best is yet to come, right? There was some piece of evidence that we don't know yet.
I keep forgetting to mention Arctic True Fox. Arctic True Fox is a great channel too. He's got an awesome channel. They seem like they weren't together.
Witness, some text, some admission, some recording that has him saying, listen, if we pull this off, we can get married. Or there's some piece of evidence, some kernel, some, smoking gun, as we like to say, that's got to come out, because otherwise they would have arrested him before. But now to feel confident enough that they can arrest him, or maybe she confessed, maybe she said something. I can't wait to see what it is, but it's something that they're going to have to use as their starting line when they start off with the jury trial and say, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what ties this case together. And here it is. And it's the proverbial smoking gun, the text, the confession, the video. I want to know what it is.
Well, investigators have said they do have a new piece of information, some sort of evidence, kind of what you're saying, that helped lead to the husband's arrest, but we don't know exactly what that is. So what do you...
Right. I think it's sometimes these people don't want to believe this shit, right? So they, they concoct these things in their mind that like, this can't be going on. It's just my, just my anxiety or whatever. The people will say the stupidest things sometimes too. It is weird.
You think would be big enough for them to be like, okay, we're finally going to pull the trigger more than a year after the arrest?
Maybe she's innocent. Maybe he told her, listen, I think there's a break-in at my house and I need you to protect my wife. Who knows? Maybe she concocted a scheme to blame it on him, and maybe she's really the guilty person. It's something, devious like that. And it'd be interesting to see what it is. But, sometimes we let two defendants like this pointing a finger at each other. They both get off, right? Because there's reasonable doubt for one that maybe it was the other one. The other one says there's reasonable doubt maybe it was the other person. They've got to feel pretty confident. It's a little scary as a prosecutor, right? To think there are two people and I don't have either one dead to rights. And if they're each pointing the finger at each other, which I imagine is probably going to happen, then what if they both create enough doubt about their story? Maybe they pull it off after all.
Talking about what led up to the husband's arrest and his indictment, there was a grand jury that was called. And these are always so interesting to me because obviously we don't know what went on there behind the closed doors. It's not made public. I'm wondering, though, if you could infer what you think happened in the grand jury hearings.
I can't escape the conclusion that the relationship had a lot to do with it, right? If these were four strangers, the man and the woman in the house and the man and the woman that came in it, that would be different. But the fact that there was, a wife, and the fact that there was...
I do think this lawyer's right, though. Sometimes they have a lot of circumstantial stuff, but they don't have that typical smoking gun type evidence where they're trying to get. And that's why I think they rely heavily on, confessions in jail or confessions from somebody, or they have somebody flip on the other person, something like that.
An au pair, which by the way carries a stigma, right? There's always that stigma of, the au pair, the younger, the newer model, the whatever it is, and the relationship between the husband and the au pair. And people want to lead to that conclusion that not just were they having an affair, but they conspired to murder his wife. I don't know how you get that out of the au pair, out of the grand jury members' minds, but other than that, there has to be something to tie them to it. And maybe it's the lack of any other explanation. Maybe there's no other good reason, because this guy that was killed and the wife never were violent and had a good explanation for why he was in the home. But it's some combination of all that. And again, the grand jury doesn't have to decide that he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They have to decide there's enough there that they could probably get a conviction based on that evidence. So there's probably enough there. But what it was, we're going to see for sure when he gets trial.
All right, so let's get out of that. I'll keep an eye on that. I think that trial's coming up soon. Not sure. Let's go to this Jarvin Coles thing. I'll do a couple more things and I'll get the hell out of here. Let's see here. Hope everybody's doing well. Charlotte's an amazing person. Okay, so this is the Jarvin Coles case here. The Harris County Sheriff's Office is asking for help finding Jarvis Coles on a liver. He was a student athlete at North Shore. Was at a house party north of Houston on March 18th when a pew-pewing happened, and they're still trying to find some answers on this case here. So I think this is the Harris County Sheriff's Office press conference here, or Crime Stoppers here in Houston.
Basically, Jervon died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds. And let's be real, a party like that on a drive-by, there are people out there that know who did this. And we know that there are people out there that are wanting to come forward. And that's why Crime Stoppers is offering an up to a $5,000 reward. I'm giving you 5,000 reasons to reach out to us at 713-222-TIPS. And go online, www.crime-stoppers.org. We have a mobile app, over 20 languages. You can.
Congratulations on the twin thing. You have twins too? Twins. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Contact that. We need your help. We want your help. The best thing about Crime Stoppers is we are anonymous. We don't know who you are. We don't want to know who you are. And that's why we're sending a plea out to the public. Joining us here today, as you can see, representatives from the Harris County Sheriff's Department, family members of Jervon, and I'm going to ask Major Suarez to come on up here and kind of give kind of an update as far as where everything stands now.
Thank you, Andy.
It's awesome that Crime Stoppers is helping out in this case because they need all the help they can get here.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us here this morning. I'm Harris County Sheriff's Major Saul Suarez, and I oversee our Criminal Investigations Bureau. Joining me this morning is our members of our homicide unit, led by Captain James Wagner and Lieutenant Michael Santos. Also joined by Andy and representatives from Crime Stoppers of Houston, and also the family members of.
I think a lot of it has to do with ego. I think that some of the reasons why people don't allow other agencies into some of these cases are because they just either have an ego problem or they don't want any more hands involved. I don't know. I can't answer that, but I think there should be more or less resistance to outside help, especially if a case has been stalled because there's no answers. I would definitely at that point allow anybody in that has any credibility to help in cases like that for sure.
Jervon,
especially this one here, because it's, you know, it's not like I don't want to say it's not complicated, but somebody's got to know something in this case here. These things just don't happen. People know stuff.
Hold. So I want to express my deepest condolences to the family of Jervon Coles. We are here today standing with them, seeking justice for their loved one. We also want to thank Crime Stoppers for their support and bring.
This poor woman right here, you just got to feel, you know, a tremendous amount of grief for her. She's not doing well. This is just tough. It's not easy to stand up here and do this shit.
Bringing justice to Jervon. Jervon was a high school senior and an inspirational student and a football star at North Shore High School in Galena Park ISD. Our homicide detectives have gathered information and they have
I mean, you can tell she's doing the best she can to hold it together. It's just nightmare.
We've also gathered evidence, but we still need the public's assistance and help in bringing more information to hold those responsible for this crime. On Saturday, March 9th.
Have a great night, Barbara. We're always thinking about you here. Love to Miss Barbara. She's an awesome person. Thank you, Big Fish. I really appreciate that. I do the best I can, that's for sure. But we love Miss Barbara. She's an awesome person. We're going to get some answers for her hopefully soon. Now that I got my new computer, I can run the ticker again. Justice for Timmy Dees, her son, for sure. Stay safe this weekend, Barbara. I hope you're well. Always thinking about you, for sure.
2024 at approximately 10 p.m. 18-year-old Javon Coles was at a house party in Humble. He was enjoying himself with friends when gunshots were fired from about a block away towards the house where the party occurred.
You just can't, you can't put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's going through this. You just can't, because, there's so many things to worry about in life. You worry about your kids all the time, and to just one day, when a split second, to just have them taken away from you like that, it's just, you don't want to wish that upon anybody. And these people don't want to be standing up here. I can guarantee you that much. They'd rather be enjoying their life, but that's probably never going to happen again.
Javon was hit several times and killed. The Harris County Sheriff's Office homicide detectives responded to the scene along the 4900 block of Fieldwick Lane. Detectives believe the shots were randomly fired towards the party. They have devoted days and countless hours towards gathering information from multiple sources and witnesses to identify possible suspects.
I really appreciate everybody coming in. Thank you for all the support. You guys are awesome.
Detectives have also compiled valuable evidence. However, we still need more information from the public in order to seek prosecution for the person or persons responsible for this crime. We're asking the community's assistance in finding justice for Javon. We urge anyone with information, no matter how small, please come forward. You can contact the Harris County Sheriff's Office at 713-274-9100. Again, that's 713-274-9100. Or you can contact Crime Stoppers anonymously at 713-222-TIPS, which is 8477. Any information may be key to bringing closure to this case. Crime Stoppers is also offering up to $5,000 reward for information leading up to the arrest of the suspect or suspects in this case. Once again, we ask you, anyone, to come forward with information to contact us immediately. To Javon's family, we promise to continue working relentlessly to ensure that we bring justice for Javon. Thank you.
I mean, I sit here and I do this stuff, but it's not like I want to. This is so depressing. This stuff here is just, we laugh a lot and stuff, and I enjoy having a good time too, but this stuff is just senseless. It's just why, it's, human life is much more valuable than this. These freaking poor people here, just, it's depressing. It just is. Just one answer, so that's all.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and give a quick remarks in Spanish, and then I'll turn it over to our Homicide Squad 2 Sergeant Sidney Miller and our lead investigator, Margarita Nolan. Buenos días y gracias por acompañarnos. Soy Mayor Saúl Suárez con la Oficina del Alguacil del Condado de Harris. Antes de nada, quiero ofrecer nuestras condolencias a la familia de que era la 4,000 pequeña que sea, que nos llamen. Nuestro número del homicidio es 713.
Over a team of homicide detectives that are actively working this case. As the major said, we've been working this case since March.
I just fast forwarded it because he's basically, thank you, Mustang. Thank you so much for coming in. You're awesome. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Always a pleasure to have Mustang in here. Anyways, I fast forward. I think he's just recounting what he said in English and Spanish.
March 9th, diligently following up on every lead. All the information that's coming in, we've been following up on it. Our team has been led by Detective Margarita Nolan as lead investigator. She's been in constant contact with Javon's family, the grandparents, and I'm gonna tell you from what I know, Javon was an exceptional kid. You know, gifted kid, very, he was a good son, obviously, and a grandson. So, you know, many of us have kids and we understand how you send your kids off to these parties and, you know, for them to have a good time and you expect for them to come back home. And unfortunately, Javon didn't come back home that night. So we are asking the public with any.
You know, I just want to reach out and hug these people. You just really do. This is so depressing.
Any information that you may have regarding this case to call us. We have a lot of evidence that we've collected through our investigation. I don't want to disclose specifically what we have because, as you know, the perpetrators are still out there and they hadn't been caught. So we don't want to tip them off. But we are asking people that were at that party that we have not talked to or anyone with information regarding the case to contact the Harris County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit at 713-274-9100 or Crime Stoppers at 713-222-TIPS. What I will tell you in terms of motive, based on our investigation, as you know, these shots occurred about a block away during the cover of night, and they were indiscriminately fired at the house, which indicates to us that, you know, this Javon was just an innocent bystander. And everything right now.
Thank you, Jenny. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Appears to be that this was just a person or persons that was trying to disrupt this house party. So at this point, like I said, we're just seeking the public's help and trying.
I will guarantee one thing: this channel will never be about me. It's about the victims families, trying to find some I don't know, resolution, some just getting some of the word out there to help in any way possible. This channel here will never be about me, that's for sure. It's about these poor people right here that are going to have to live with this, for the rest of their life. It's just, it sucks.
Trying to get this case solved and get closure for Javon's family. So again, we're asking if you have any information to contact the Harris County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit or Crime Stoppers with any information you may have. Thank you.
And I don't care who the suspect is, whoever it is needs to, get their punishment, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Regardless,
Behind me are Javon's grandparents.
you got to have a lot of respect for people like this here, these certain entities here that help assist in these investigations, because like I said, these people need all the help they can get, and you just hope, that they get some answers here.
And mother, and I'm going to ask Javon's grandfather, Braxton, to come on up on behalf of the family.
Thank you. First off, I just want to thank
this is going to be tough.
The Harris County Sheriff's Office and Crime Stoppers for putting this on. You guys have been, doing a great job, and we really, really appreciate it. Like it's been stated so many times by myself and others, someone knows who did this. So we're asking anybody that knows anything to come forward and let us know what you know. Too many people were there to not have seen something. So someone knows, and we're going to continue to pray and request that information comes forth that will help catch the murderers who killed my grandson. It's been a lot of conversation and a lot of things, back and forth about, the tragedy. But I just want to touch on some of the good that's come out of it. We created a foundation in his name called Crash Out for Cause. And our mission is to, through education and to talking and flyers and attending events, we don't want any other family to go through what we're going through. We are sponsoring kids for youth sports. We are going to give some scholarships. And, we had a lot of attention on his murder. I just want to keep some of the same attention on the good that we're doing after that. So, we have a GoFundMe set up to try to bump the reward up. I have that information. I didn't bring it with me. But we're looking forward to the good we can do. Through every, they say through every tragedy, some good must come. I never thought that the tragedy would be ours. And, but this is the position we're in. I can't dwell on what happened because nothing we can do or nothing anyone can do can bring him back. Only thing that we can do is we can try.
This is the stuff here that just makes me really angry. I mean, you just want to help out as much as you possibly can. It's just
to do as much good as we can moving forward in his name. Thank you.
All right, so I'll keep track of that one. This is one of those cases here, and recently, anyways, that's really bothered me. It's just there's just no answer. There's just no. I mean, there's no why. All right, so we're gonna go over this one here too. Do a few of these little cases here, little snippets. This guy here, according to the prosecutor, Timothy Lagarde, 50, fatally unalived his neighbor Wednesday morning and SA'd the man's wife and young daughter. This is going to be a little triggering. This was coming out of Pontiac. I believe this is Michigan here. So here, hold on, let me share this here. Share this. There we go.
A horrific encounter in Oakland County. A Pontiac man facing several charges in connection to the death of a man and the sexual assault of that man's wife and daughter.
She didn't even get an opportunity to say goodbye. She never saw this coming.
Tonight, we are learning more about the family attacked in Pontiac by a neighbor and supposed friend. Glad you're with us tonight at 11. I'm Devin Skillion.
I'm Kimberly Gill. Police say 50-year-old Timothy Lagarde stabbed and killed his neighbor before going inside their house and sexually assaulting the wife of the man he killed and that man's young child. Jacqueline Francis is talking with a close friend of the family as they're looking to the community for support.
Let's start with Tim Lagarde. He's here at the Oakland County Jail and will be formally charged over the weekend. This is a man who was not only neighbors with the victim, but a friend, someone close to the family, telling me there was no disagreement. This really just came out of nowhere.
This was just a senseless loss that I can't wrap my head.
Dean's a great guy. Did you go get checked on that dizziness thing? Yeah, I had to take a break. I've taken a break from some of the bigger chats. It's just one reason my family was up here from Florida this week, so I didn't have time to go, and get on as many chats as I normally do. But I mean, it's just toxic. I don't need any more toxic in my life. But I get it. I understand. I just don't understand why people have to be so what I'm looking for. I don't have any problem with opinions. I just don't. As long as it's not like a targeted attack. for somebody's opinion. People are going to have opinions. People are going to have different different views on things. People are going to have different ideas. People are going to have different logics, and that's what makes the world go round, man. It's an opinionated world. Everybody's got an opinion, and I don't honestly have a problem with it. But at the same time, when it becomes toxic and when it becomes so not focused on the actual reason why, that's when I have a problem with it, because yeah, unless it's Gray Hughes. But that's when it becomes a problem with me, because I don't mind. I listen to everybody. I may not agree with them all the time 100%, but I'm just not going to attack the person for that. I'm not going to attack their opinion. I may not agree with it, but doesn't mean I have to hate the person. And okay, that's enough of my soapbox here, but all right, let's go back to this here.
My head around it. I can't really fully understand what would possess somebody to do this, honestly.
Rebecca Pearl is walking us through the unimaginable crime that happened in this Pontiac neighborhood Wednesday morning. Her best friend's husband, Bill, was allegedly stabbed to death by his friend and neighbor, 50-year-old Tim Lagarde.
This neighbor befriended my best friend's husband. Used to go over there constantly, back and forth, them over their house and likewise. So it's just bizarre.
You can't trust anybody ever. Unfortunately, these days here, you can't trust anybody, nobody. And unfortunately, sometimes it's even relatives. You can't trust anybody.
That after 14 years of being neighbors, that something like this could transpire.
It was around 6 a.m. when Bill's wife and daughter were getting ready for school inside. Bill was loading up the car when police say Tim stabbed him.
Her and my niece rushed to the door to see what's going on.
Why?
And the next thing that you know, they're met with the neighbor coming in with a knife, and a big struggle happened. And they were trapped in the house with him for at least 10 to 20 minutes. I'm not going to go into detail because it would keep you up at night.
Police say the mother and 8-year-old girl were sexually assaulted by Tim. He then let them go.
For no reason at all. It's almost like he decided it was no longer a good idea and let them go. They had no idea that her husband was passed away in the driveway.
Did you post your channel in here yet, Paula?
So they were like met with his body as they were running out of the driveway. And of course they fell to their knees like, oh my God, I can't believe he's gone.
Truth and Justice has a great channel. Think Tank, Frankie, the Think Tank, great channel. Southern Gal is phenomenal. PJ's great. Lighting Their Way Home is fantastic. All these channels, they're all awesome.
Like, because they were wondering, why isn't he coming? Why isn't he coming to save us? Where is he?
They ran to a neighbor's house and called 911. Police found Tim walking nearby and placed him under arrest. He'll be formally charged this weekend on multiple counts, including murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault.
My best friend and my niece are without their main provider, without their security. They can't even go back to their house because of everything that's transpired inside of it.
Rebecca has started a GoFundMe to help support the family during this time. You can find a link to that on our website, clickondetroit.com. Reporting from the Oakland County Jail, Jacqueline Francis, Local 4.
All right, so that's that. Let's hold on a second. Let me play this one here. We'll play this one here. This was done September 20th.
11 felonies. The man accused, that's what he was charged with, including murder. If convicted, he's looking at life behind bars. This is Timothy Lagarde.
Yeah, people are crazy. I mean, why did this guy do this? It's just weird. the essay of the victim's wife and daughter, and then just why?
A 50-year-old resident of Pontiac, according to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office and Sheriff's Office. On Wednesday morning, September 18th, Lagarde allegedly stabbed his 41-year-old neighbor, identified by others in the area as William John Allison. A short time later, they say Lagarde entered the home and allegedly sexually assaulted Allison's wife and daughter. The two escaped and called 911 from another neighbor's home. When deputies arrived, they found the father dead
They were lucky to get out of there.
in the driveway, stab wounds to his chest. Deputies then found Lagarde walking a few blocks away. They took him into custody. Friday, he was charged with 11 felonies, including first-degree murder.
Okay, so Paula's channel is Paula Fitzhenry. I'll have to sub to that. Whoops. Damn it. All right.
Kidnapping and criminal sexual conduct. A neighbor tells Fox 2 she's shocked.
It's disturbing. It's disturbing. It's, you never know what's going on with somebody. The individual has to be very mentally touched to do something like that to a child.
There's going to be a lifetime of emotional scars from this. I mean, I don't know how you get over that kind of assault, that kind of absolute victimization of these two completely innocent people.
Now he's currently lodged at Oakland County Jail. And stick with Fox 2 as we give you updates as we get them. Reporting.
So that's that. My screen split on me again. Paranoia makes people suspicious. People like to prove you are what they think and not what they actually are. Yep, for sure. All right, so I'm going to share this one too. This is I'm going to do two cases here from Vermont. Give me a second here while I present this here. So this guy's pleading not guilty to a 1993 unaliving of his estranged wife. They've been looking at this guy for several years, and now they're finally bringing charges because the new prosecutor feels like they have enough. This is another one of those cold cases here. Let's hope they have enough to this guy here. I think this is his wife, and they're claiming that he unalived her. So let's do this here.
Wife in a cold case dating back 31 years.
Our Ike Ben David has been going over the details of this case and joins us now live. Ike, what happened?
This case has gone unresolved for 3 decades, but now the husband of the victim is facing a first-degree murder charge.
From an unsolved crime scene in 1993 to criminal charges in 2024.
It's an enter and not guilty plea.
For 31 years, there were no charges in the death of 42-year-old Cheryl Peters. Now, Carol Peters is facing a first-degree murder charge for killing his estranged wife on September 2nd, 1993, in her Morrisville home.
Your Honor, this was an execution-style killing when the victim was sleeping.
Lamoille County State's Attorney Aliana Gerhard tells us no new evidence was uncovered that caused her to move forward. She points to the work of the cold case specialist at the Vermont State Police, who took a fresh look at the case and brought her the file.
We believe that we have enough evidence to successfully prosecute this case. I can't speak for anyone but myself. My decision to move forward, it's time for justice for this family and for our community. So that's all I can speak to. I can't speak to my predecessor's choice.
Gerhard took the decades-old evidence and brought it to a grand jury. They found enough.
Dean, you're an awesome person, man. If you're leaving, take care. Have a good weekend. You're awesome. Dean's a great person. I think Dean was my first sub. Dean's been here forever. Stay well, brother.
Enough probable cause to go forward with an indictment.
They have made their statement loud and clear that there is enough evidence to charge Carol Peters with murder in the first degree.
The case rocked the community, and for years, the family fought for answers.
We're concerned that there's not enough action being taken on Mom's case.
The family pushed for a grand jury 3 decades ago, but the state's attorney at the time, Joel Page, said the state didn't have enough evidence to prove the case.
My opinion is that while there is probably enough to establish probable cause against a suspect, there clearly is not enough evidence at this time to obtain a conviction.
Police had identified Carol Peters as a suspect in the case from the beginning. Peters denied any involvement, including when he was confronted by Channel 3 News reporter Brian Joyce during a memorial service for Cheryl in 1994.
Is that YouTube? Paula?
Chance
No,
to.
I didn't do it.
Did you kill Cheryl Peters?
No, I did not.
31 years later, he is charged in the case and is being held without bail.
Because of the grand jury indictment, a lot of the evidence is not yet public information, but we expect to learn more at Peters' next court appearance, which is scheduled for next week. Darren?
All right, so that's that. I want to go over this one too. This happened in this same case. I'm sorry, same state, just a different case. This is also out of Vermont. This is another one of those triple unaliving things here. So police arrest victim's son for Paulet triple unaliving. This is also in Vermont, Paulet, Vermont. This is basically due west of Claremont, New Hampshire. So it's I was going to go over this Sandra Birchman thing again tonight, but
An arrest in the triple murder in Paulet. Thanks for joining us at 5. I'm Darren Perrin.
And I'm Kiana Burks. The small southern Vermont town rocked by the news, and now we're learning what led up to the shooting.
well, you have 21. You'll have 21 subs right after I drop. I'll find your link and I'll put it in. Oh, there we go. Heather did it. Heather's awesome. Heather's an amazing person. Heather's a fantastic person. She's right on it. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Channel 3's Connor Olathorn joins us live outside of the Vermont State Police Barracks in Rutland. Connor, what do you know?
Darren and Kiana, Brian Crossman Jr. has been arrested, accused of 3 counts of aggravated murder. He is the son of Brian Crossman Sr., who was also a Paulet Select Board member. Police found his body along with his wife Erica and her 13-year-old son on Sunday at Crossman's home along Route 133 in Paulet. They were shot to death.
Let me stop this for a second. So Paulette is let me get this in New York here, Vermont here. So this is way west. This is upstate New York here, or east upstate New York. I think Glens Falls is somewhere around here. There's Saratoga Springs there. So if you go, northeast here, it's right in this area here. Here's the New Hampshire border here. So it's right over in here. And take 87 down here, you get down to New York City. So, all right, so let's go back to beautiful town. Let's
Police say Crossman Jr., the suspect, called 911 to report the incident, saying he had gone for a walk, and when he returned, he found his family dead. Investigators say the home was covered in blood, firearms, and shell casings, and that Crossman Jr.'s story was inconsistent. Family members of Crossman Jr. described the 22-year-old as having a troubled relationship with his father and that he had previously displayed concerning aggressive behavior. They also say he had mental health issues and a learning disability. Police say a search of Crossman Jr.'s phone showed searches related to serial killers and unresolved murders. He's now in custody in New York, where he lives, and is expected to be in court there sometime next week before he's brought to Vermont to face those murder charges. For now, live in Rutland, Connor Olathorn, Channel 3 News.
It's Farqu's here. Karen Lee's here too. They saw the 47-year-old case here today. The guy who did it, it was 17 at the time and left for Greece after doing it. Where's that? Good to see you, Farq. Good to see you, Karen. Karen's here. Karen's awesome too. Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. Most of us, once we start doing lives, it gets better. It starts off really bad, but then it gets better. You'll do fine. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Let's put it that way. All right, let me hold on one second. I'm gonna go. Is this the this is such a horrible case here. Let's do this one here. No. All right, we'll do this.
Hi, everyone. I'm Krista Delkamp. And I'm Rachel Keller. Hope
This was done 1 day ago. This is the auto recording obtained by this channel here, reveals what the former Abington police chief knew about one of his officers months before the officer's name was leaked in an explosive report about the manipulation and SGing of Sandra Birchman. So I'm following this case like it's flies on shit here. This is just an awful case here, and they tried to make sure this didn't get out, but it's out now, and I hope everybody gets fired. That's just my opinion.
you enjoyed the Patriots game. We will head back out live to MetLife Stadium in just a few minutes. But first, a story 25 Investigates has been working on for weeks. It involves the Sandra Birchmore murder investigation. So let's get right to it.
So if people don't know about the Sandra Birchmore case, she was unalived back in 2016, 17, I think. And they ruled it voluntarily unaliving, and then they tried to cover it up. She was groomed by this piece of dog shit, and she got pregnant a couple years ago, and then he didn't want anything to do with it, and then he unalived her. That's my opinion. Innocent until proven guilty, but and if it wasn't for the hard work of people who just wouldn't let this case die, and to be honest with you, with some of the Karen Reed case that went on, it's basically the same area as Canton, Massachusetts. They really got a lot of exposure during that case, and finally the FBI stepped in and said, we're going to bring this case up again. So here we go.
I'm investigative reporter Ted Daniel. Former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell remains in federal custody, charged with killing Sandra Birchmore. State police initially ruled her death a suicide. 25 Investigates is looking back and at a different cop Birchmore knew, named Joshua Heel. We have a recording that was never supposed to be made public.
And how she was failed by, manipulated.
I grew up in Massachusetts, so I know how, let's put it this way, cover-up-ish. Some of them are down there. I don't want to say the whole law enforcement community is like that, but there's certain people that just take the power to another level. This guy here, in my opinion, is just a dirtbag, just a literal piece of dirtbag, and he deserves the worst punishment possible, period.
By and used by people of authority.
When Stoughton police revealed that 3 of their officers had troubling relationships with Sandra Birchmore, the name of an Abington cop also surfaced. Josh Heel previously worked for Stoughton's Animal Control.
The deputy told me that Heel and the deceased woman were friends and that they had texted quite frequently. I believe it was daily. There was a lot of digital information. He said he was hoping that Josh would help him connect the dots.
Can you guys just identify yourselves for the recording?
25 Investigates has obtained a recording of then Abington Police Chief David Del Papa in a formal interview with the town attorney. Del Papa says he was told in December 2021 that Josh Heal was a witness in Stoughton's probe. Here he describes getting new information 3 months later.
Birchmore was known to several members of the department as having mental health issues. Sandra had disclosed details about her relationships with other members of the department to Josh in explicit detail.
And according to Del Papa, Heal.
This case is just
also had a sexual encounter with Birchmore.
The deputy chief had disclosed to me that he had received oral sex from a woman, and I basically told him that it happened off duty and extramarital affairs on any of my business.
And this is a guy who was working at schools at the time.
That's right. Josh Heal was an Abington school resource officer and police comfort dog handler.
And I, honestly believe there's other victims. It sucks. It's absolutely horrible.
Kirk Minahan reported extensively on Birchmore and Heal in season 2 of his podcast called The Case.
It seems to me, minute one, you find out, you put this guy on leave until you figure your stuff out. And if he's exonerated, fine, back to work. But of course, he wasn't exonerated.
Heal continued to work in the schools for another 6 months until the day after Del Papa learned.
It's sick. It's just absolutely sickening that these people are literally out on the streets.
That Heal's name had been mistakenly left unredacted in a report that was going to be shared with the media.
They wanted to give us a heads up because it was going to be a disaster. So I got off the phone. I called Josh in and told him, you're on admin leave. At that point, I still didn't know the full breadth of Stoughton's investigation as far as one of the officers having relations with this woman when she was underage and the grooming and all that.
We asked Abington Town Manager Scott Lambiase if Heal should have been taken out of the schools sooner, based on what Del Papa did know.
As a police officer and a member of a union, civil service, there's steps that you have to go through before you can actually put somebody on administrative leave or begin an investigation. But I believe that once we actually knew the full depth and confirmation on what had actually happened, we acted pretty quickly.
Heal remained on paid leave until he resigned in early 2023. In a statement, Heal's attorney tells 25 Investigates Heal is a material witness, and Mr. Heal has not
been ever, and is not going to be the target of any criminal charges in the future because he has not broken any laws. Okay.
Been ever and is not going to be the target of any criminal charges in the future because he has not broken any laws. Del Papa stepped down in May 2024 in what the town describes as a mutual separation. Abington hired an outside investigator that concluded Del Papa was professional and diligent in his handling of Heal. Del Papa tells us what happened to Birchmore isn't
this poor kid, I mean, I'm here. I think she's like 23 here. But this poor innocent person here, she didn't deserve any of this shit. None of it.
Absolute tragedy. He says, given the very limited information, my response was appropriate to what I knew at the time. Kirk Minahan sees it differently.
The buck was passed a lot of times. I think Del Papa should own up for his failures in this entire situation.
Days before Del Papa placed Heal on leave, he learned that Heal had texted, quote, graphic and filthy things with.
I mean, I'm probably one of the biggest proponents for law enforcement. Like, if you take law enforcement as a general whole, everybody in law enforcement, they're very good people. I mean, look at Mr. Steve. Mr. Steve is an awesome human being. He just is. And most are like that. Most are very good. But, there's these sickos that are in every field, and the difference here is the cover-ups, the people who, try to, push this to the back burner. That's the problem.
Birchmore while on duty. Del Papa also became aware that Heel created an unauthorized Instagram account named after his police comfort dog.
Oh, God.
Heel no longer works as a police officer. For 25 Investigates, I'm Ted Daniel.
No, I mean, I'm going to keep following this case as much as I possibly can. I have been following this case for about 5 years, but I'm going to get the hell out of here. You guys have been awesome. I've been on here, almost 3 hours. It's time for me to go bye-bye. Charlotte, you're awesome. Heather Brown, you're an amazing person. Thank you so much for all your support. Jenny, you're great. Thank you so much for finding my channel. FireQ, you're awesome. Charlotte, just said Charlotte FireQ. Paula, you're awesome. I'll try to promote your channel as much as I possibly can. Karen Lee, sorry, you're probably watching replay. You're awesome. Karen Lee is an amazing person. She does a lot of modding for a lot of people. She mods for Chris and the Mob Crew. Chris and the Mob Crew is an awesome channel too. Manimal's awesome too. I've been watching Chris and the Mob Crew for forever. Mr. Steve was here, so that's always a good thing. Mr. Steve is a phenomenal person. Hopefully he stays safe on his journeys, helping out all these families. Big Fish, Small Pond, thank you so much for coming in. If you want a wrench, let me know. I know that Curious Contrarian was in here. Honeybee was in here for sure. Honeybee's awesome. Dean Johnson was in here. Dean Johnson's great. Cold Truth was in here. Cold Truth is one of the most intelligent people that I know. She's just fantastic. She's got a great channel. Very, very smart. Let's see here. Who else was in here? I know Miracle Hearts was in here. PJ was in here. Lighting the Way Home's got a great channel too. I watch her as much as I possibly can. Grandma Sherry was in here. Thank you, Grandma Sherry. Barbara Hall, it's great. Barbara Hall is she's always welcome in here. Melissa was in here. Melissa Wildcard, she's great too. She's been here for a while. True Crime Web, Mustang 1965 was in here. Thank you very much. Michelle C, thank you so much for coming in. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. I can't scroll up as much as I sometimes like to. I should write these names down. Vid Inquiries was in here. Vid Inquiries has got a great channel too. So check her out. Check them out. I'm going to forget. I'm going to miss people. I just know I am. I want to thank everybody who watches on the replay, because I know people do watch on the replay, and I really appreciate all the support. You guys are great. Who else was in here? All right, I think that's going to do it for me. I'm going to get out of here. I've bored you guys enough here. But feel free to visit some of these channels that have been in here, that have been posted. You guys are all awesome. I appreciate you every single time. You guys make the chat. You guys make the channel. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy the good weather, the good fall weather. I'm going to stop this here. And I'll see you guys all later. Like I said, I may come back on tomorrow and do a tropical update at some point. But other than that, hold on a second. Let me try to play an outro. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, guys.